I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, August. Agenda review. I was looking at this, and I was just talking to the town manager upstairs. The vote to award the temporary bridge project can actually slide down the agenda a little bit. We have the listers here. The bicycle pedestrian path, definitely down the list a little bit. And social services appropriations, that's part of our budget discussion, really. So that also can go down the list unless we have people that are here to address that. Is there anybody here to talk about any of the social service appropriations? Anybody? Anybody online? Okay, so that sound okay to everybody? Most of that, see, that's going to move everything down just probably in that same order, but gets it below the Lister report, the land use update. I'm expecting somebody here to talk to us about that. And then we can do those things. That way we're dealing with people that are here in the room, if everybody's okay with that. Okay? Very good. So, comments from select board, town manager, and citizens, topics not on the agenda. We'll start with the select board. Anybody have any comments?
Yes.
Go.
We just got this packet from Floanne, and so I also got a mailing, but it doesn't say what time we're meeting. So if somebody can find that out, this is all gonna be warned, but there's no time on it. So.
Okay, so I'm gonna stop right there. I guess this is a BCA?
meeting.
Okay. So Brandon, you'll get that?
So there's a date and no time?
Correct.
Okay.
The 13th of December, but no time.
Thank you, Dave.
If you could show me the time on the agenda, I'd be more than happy to. I got it in the mail today in the same copy of the same front of the thing, so.
Are you aware of a time, Barb?
Right there.
Oh, I'm sorry, then that's been added because the one we got in the mail wasn't.
I did not see a time in the one in the mail.
Okay, so it's all,
It says on this one.
okay, so we're good then.
Yeah.
So she's warned it, but not with the mail. I don't know, it's worth checking. So whoever's on the Justice of the Peace and our board, right, who else is the makeup of the BCA?
That's it.
Okay. Second, I have been in contact with the school. They're starting their budget talks, I think, next week, or I didn't happen to write down the date. And Anne Marie was happy that I was kind of like the person. The only thing I told her was just so to keep all the board members up to speed on, I didn't go out on a limb and promise the moon to them from us. But I did say that we'd hired somebody to undertake a reappraisal, that is very important to them, but that it wouldn't get finished until 2025. That's all I know. I don't even know when they're gonna begin or not. Something that just barely happened, I think maybe last night or Friday, and I don't know if it was coming out of the governor's office or not, but the governor certainly knows about it because he commented on it, dealing with the school. The homestead and the non-homestead tax rates are projected to be significantly higher, like a lot higher.
18-something%.
Yeah. So while I know that the town and the school is separate, it was significantly lower last year, and the town had to raise its obligations last year. I mean, it's all a projection, but it's something to keep in mind because that just barely got released. So, I think that's it. And I don't know. They asked me if I wanted to go to the school meeting, because I just go to listen. But I told you, everybody up here at the last meeting, or maybe the meeting before, that I don't want to go in there and say we're going to do something together before we talk about what that is or not is. I don't want to do that. So. I only informed them about the reappraisal, so. That's it.
Thank you, Dave. Citizens, topics not on the agenda. Darren?
Last week I dropped off some pictures of the fire truck being built over in Dingy. I hope you guys have them. I got some more today. On the progress. Those are in color for you.
Nice.
So on that first page I sent,
With pink?
well, I was running out of ink. I got the good copy here. See?
It's very pretty, Darren.
I love the big cover.
As you can see on the front page, there's the light bar came off the truck we sold. We saved ourselves $7,000 on that. And when I was over there today, this was Friday, this is today's picture. They started on the extended front bumper where the siren, Hue siren they took off the truck we sold is going on there. They got the roll-up doors on it. The pump has been in place for probably 2 months. They were waiting on the roll-up doors. They started mounting all the lights on the back. The second page I sent you, you can see they're starting to lay out. There's a bank of 4 lights going here. There'll be a brake light, warning light, backup light, and then a parking light, directional. These here on the back are for our 2 suction lines that are going in to the body. That's going to be for the quick dump. And that's the hose bed. We're trying to lay out how we want the hose bed with the hose and some hazmat pads and stuff on it. They're looking for a delivery date sometime in February. They started the wiring process today. They had a bunch of wires running around through there. They hooked up the drop-down chains last week that we wanted on there. The radios were dropped off last week, and the antennas and the cameras. You can see they mounted the cameras over the last couple of days. But all in all, it's come along good.
Thank you, Darren.
Thank you.
And town manager, any comments?
None.
Any other comments from citizens? Hearing none, need a motion to approve the minutes of 11/20/2023.
I'll make that motion.
Do I hear a second?
Yes.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the minutes of 11/23. Now I just gotta get over to my, get up there. Over to my packet, because I had a few things right up in the beginning, I think, that need to get looked at. Okay, call to order, number 1, should be 6:14, I believe, not 6:44. And after calling it to order, we don't enter executive session. There's a motion and a second to go into executive order. Dave, you weren't there yet, but Kelly and August were. I just don't remember which one made the motion. One of you made the motion and one of you made the second. I thought that you did too, Kelly, and I think August
seconded it.
So that was the motion was made to go into executive session by Kelly, seconded by August, and all in favor. Dave was not present yet. He showed up. He got there, but he was a little late.
So was Wendy there also?
She was on the phone.
Okay, good.
And Mike, I think Nicole did the.
I think that is the right time.
Yeah, I think the actual meeting was called to order at 6:44. Is that what you recorded?
No.
Okay.
I have to call. We have to have a vote to go into executive session. I called the meeting to order at 6:14.
Yeah, no, I understand that, but I think where she got confused is that when we came out of executive session and came down here, it was around 6:44.
And that's probably you're probably right. Yeah.
Regular
Yes.
meeting.
Yeah, but I had to start the regular meeting in order to have the motion to go into executive session. So the meeting was opened at 6:14. Then we just moved down here and resumed the meeting.
Okay.
Okay, so the meeting was actually opened at 6:14. That was an agenda. That was an actual agenda item, and we were supposed to be starting at 6. So that's okay. Then what was the next one that I saw?
Excuse me.
Yes.
Excuse me. It's Anne Marie Christensen.
Yes.
You can't hear the audio, and I sent Brandon a message. There there's two of us that can't have trouble listening to selectmen. I'm listening on closed caption and it's not quite doing it.
Okay.
Can you hear me? Nothing? Anne Marie, nothing?
It's usually this
We
thing
can
here.
hear you, but it's so low.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
No.
I bet it's just a volume thing, Brandon. It might be just.
I'll start by, well, you can't hear me, so that isn't gonna do any good anyway.
Well, she said you could hear low, so that it's a volume issue, it sounds like. It's not a connection issue.
Right.
There is a connection, I just can't hear it. It's so light and I can't do anything to turn it up.
How about now? Can you hear us better now?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. And we apologize. Our principal clerk is out sick tonight. And she would usually have that, so it's Brandon's fault.
Okay,
He fixed it. Thank you, Brandon. You're welcome. And thank you, Anne Marie, for pointing that out. There was something else that I had. I thought it was right in that. Anybody else got anything in the minutes? Okay. I know what it was now. Under select board members, it says absent. Wendy Smith was present for the executive session, but not the regular meeting. So we
I would put her.
I would just say present for the executive session only. Present for executive session only, and that's fine. Any other discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the minutes, 11/20/23, signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you, Wendy. The motion carries. Next up would be the listers report. See how I did that for you, Barb?
Yeah, appreciate that. So, I guess my task was to go through to make sure that everybody was paying their share of the waste management fees. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So, by doing that, all hundreds of them, pretty much everybody is paying their share.
Were there some that were not supposed to be paying on some properties, a few here and there or something, or?
No, there was some, it was brought to my attention that there was a parcel that they thought that were paying twice, but they're not. They're only paying once. When somebody buys another piece of parcel and it gets contiguous to the piece that they have, then they only pay the one fee.
Right.
Okay, so the list that was given out didn't have the subs in there. It just gave parcels, and all parcels, some of them, if they're subdivided, will have the parcel number .1 or .2 or .3. Those were not in there. So when I went through the whole entire list and saw people that weren't paying, that had zeros, it's because it might be just land only. Some of it was that they're from what I saw, that they were like in campgrounds, so they don't pay if they're in a campground. And that's basically all I found.
So you didn't find any that were actually being charged twice?
No.
Okay.
The only way that they're charged twice is if they own,
Two separate developed properties?
Correct. Then they're charged twice.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the list we got was a different list, it was wrong?
the list should have looked like, and if you go in and, you know, with, Brandon, if you go in a certain way and look at the list, you don't get the subs. You have to take and go into the files and request the subs to be put in there. So, I can give this to you, and then you have and you can look through the names, but there's the whole
So
entire list.
if you own a business in Weathersfield, do you pay the $50?
It depends on if it's classified as a business or personal property. If it's personal property, then it falls under the personal property where that was raised to 50,000.
For the $50
But that wouldn't have anything to do with the
Correct.
assessment fee for the transfer station.
Correct. Personal property doesn't.
Let me
Right.
just use an example. We'll say like the restaurant over here down here in Weathersfield, in Escutney, that Exit 8.
Exit 8.
Okay.
Do they pay a $50 fee like everybody else does for
Yes.
Okay. So even the gas stations and all those would pay the $50 fee?
Yeah, I believe if you look at the list, you'll see that they do pay it. Some of them will be exempt because they take and have their own, they don't use the transfer station at all.
But I didn't know that was something we allowed. Because we talked about that with other towns, because there are other towns that do that, that are part of the group that we have now. And they do that, but we didn't. So it didn't matter. If you had a taxable improved property, you paid $50 for a sticker, whether you have a dumpster or not. I think that's how that the policy is written.
You mean the waste management policy?
Yeah.
I don't know, this is kind of confusing how this is written, to be honest with you, because it says, one thing is that if you have contiguous properties, it's considered one property, which is correct. And then if you have common ownership, which are undeveloped in any structure, shall be treated as one parcel. So there's a parcel in town that there's many pieces to it. So there's 3 parcels that get charged 1 fee, okay, because they're owned by the same person, all right? But then there's also a business that's attached as well, so that gets another fee because it's developed. So if you own, I don't know how to word it correctly. I will.
Well, let me ask you another question.
Oh, and here's the other thing, I know where you're going with this, I think. Now, if you just bought land in the town and you just built a house on the property after the grand list was rolled over, then you will not get that fee until
The next tax.
the next time it comes
Well,
out.
that's not the case of what I'm looking at right now.
Okay,
I know for a fact there's someone on here that owns property that has a house and property that has no house at all, and they're getting billed $50 twice.
but then I don't know about that because from what I'm looking at when I go in there, it says whether there's a building on it or not.
So if it's just, do they get charged if it's just a sugar lot? Like where they just go tap trees and there's nothing on it whatsoever except for sugar trees?
They're running a business out of it?
Not out of the sugar lot.
Then I can't honestly say without going back in and look, but I went through everyone that wasn't paying, first of all. And then if there was more than one name attached to it, I double looked at those. But if it's under 2 separate names.
When you're ready.
I have a suggestion.
Go ahead.
Barb, this is not in any way, shape, or form a negative comment for you. You are, but you did say a minute ago that you're new, and you're picking up a lot of pieces here from the listers. Number one, my comment will be, I really was unaware that the listers had any involvement at all about whether or not, who determined what got stickers fees at the transfer station. That was, been serving here a long time. I was not aware that the listers were in charge of that. Number two, I do believe that there is discrepancy on these lists. And perhaps the board should take it up together, similar to what the BCA does with the voter checklist, just to see about different things and go down through the list to see what they know and what they don't know as far as whatever these lots are, property. So this is a little more, and I'm a little surprised to hear that a business would not have it charged to them because it doesn't use the transfer station. That's.
And I may be misspoken there, but I know that some of it comes up as personal property, so
Yep.
that is different.
Yep.
So I don't even look at that part of it.
But Mike is right on that one when he said that that really doesn't have anything to do with the bearing about the
Right,
charge per parcel
Right.
fee. I absolutely know that in the past, that land only, which means no improvements whatsoever, has been exempt from that per parcel fee. I've got one. And it didn't matter about the ownership, and it didn't matter about whether you conducted a business on there. You can't generate any trash on land only. I don't see that being possible. But
You may not generate it, but somebody generated it
Well,
for you.
But that would come as a policy amendment to similar, to straighten out once and for all.
But you did mention like a building like a sugar shack, or somebody did.
Well, no, she's just talking about trees.
Trees.
Okay,
No
if it's-
buildings.
no, if it's just trees, there's no building.
No building on that, no.
It's only a build, if you have a building,
No building
that
on it.
makes it an improved lot.
Right.
And the only thing I disagree with you on, Dave, is the listers' involvement in it, because they're the ones that track the development of property through zoning and taxation, which goes through the lister's office. Those two work together,
Well,
right?
the land use permit, the administrator would issue a permit for a change
Right, but and they would be responsible for adjusting the card
to follow up. Yes, yes.
So it seems to me that would be connected.
And it's in the grand list, and it's a solid fee assessment policy.
Correct.
And that's an assessment. Listers is.
Well, it's just a question of why are the listers in charge of that?
Yeah.
That was what Dave was saying.
And show me which one that is you're talking about, the sugar lot. I would be more than happy to run upstairs and take a look at that for you and come back with
Yeah, I can show it to
an
you.
answer or
We don't
I
need to do
don't
that. We
know.
got budget stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I will.
just circle it for her. Please.
But
I
I'd
didn't
be
wanna say it
interested,
out loud.
I'd be interested more to see the list that is exempt. Is there any way to create that list that says, these are the 40, I remember you telling me once, there were 40 lists
That don't
that
pay.
were on the list that don't pay the fee. That's, to me, a starting point, because that would, you look at them and say, okay, why don't you pay?
Okay, I believe it's because they're not taxed.
For what?
Because I believe it would be your churches, your fire stations, all of those.
I'd love not to pay taxes. I've got 3 of them that don't have a fee. I want the 4th one, but I don't believe that it's just on the non-taxable lands. I don't believe it.
So Mark, when you went through, when you and I were talking last week, did you look at all of the parcels in common ownership and determine
Correct.
whether they were
I
being
did.
charged
If-
correctly?
if-
Okay.
If there was the same name that came up, but what it is the same name sometimes that comes up, they own property here and they own property here. So they have to be charged twice because they're in 2 separate areas and there's buildings on both areas.
Well, you've changed in the description there a lot.
If it has the buildings, that's correct, though.
Yes.
Right,
Yes.
But if it doesn't have a building, then it's still
Correct.
exempt.
correct.
Right.
That's what I'm seeing, if it's
Okay.
just land.
Okay.
But I agree with you. With
Yeah.
land with improvements, which means, I don't even think it has to, for me, it doesn't, I'm in favor of looking at the policy. It doesn't even have to have a building on it. If you have power, water, and septic, that's enough.
Yes,
That's an improved lot.
yes, it is.
Correct.
So.
That is correct.
So that becomes, in my view, it has to generate that fee. However, if the land has no building, no power, no water, no septic, then that should be exempt. That's
Exempt.
just me.
And the only thing I would add to that is, we said we have 40 properties that are exempt for whatever reason they are. I'd like to know what the number of common ownership properties are. Is it 40, 60, whatever it is? When you have a moment. You don't even have to jump all over that. Just pass it through Brandon at some point,
Right.
you know, when
So
you get a
want
chance.
common ownership,
Yeah.
which is actually would be on that list if they own more than one piece of property. It's all in alphabetical order.
Yeah,
The other thing is who's exempt? I can probably figure that one out.
well, it says here approximately 40, which I
See,
think we had already been given that number.
Yeah, and to start off with, Brandon did not have the right list. So when he passed off that list in the very beginning, a month or two ago,
Those are different than this one.
and after talking with Barb,
You're getting kicked good tonight.
she had the list where on my main farm, I bought it with two separate deeds. Now, the land happens to be contiguous, and it's under the same ownership. So now, for tax purposes, it's one 55-acre piece. If I want to sell it, I can sell it separately, because one's 38 and one's 15. That's a different topic. But the town joined them together because they're contiguous.
Right, you actually have, and I have, if it's okay, I have yours here,
Yep.
okay? So you have 3 of them, which are under yours.
Yes.
So you get charged once.
Yes.
The farm gets charged.
Yes.
So that's how that works.
Yes.
That's 2. He's getting charged 2.
Yes.
Correct.
I want to get charged one.
Well,
But I'm just-
I was coming at it from a different perspective, and that is you said you got 2 or 3 pieces of
I do.
property, but you've got building on 2 pieces of property which are considered one because it's contiguous.
Correct.
And one is the house, one is the barn, let's say.
What's that?
One is the house, one is the barn. One's on one property, the barn's on another.
No.
Type thing, no?
No, and it doesn't matter, because the listers in the past, no, because it was 38 acres of land that I bought, had no improvements on it. So, but it happens to be shared boundary by deed, so the town forms it together to be contiguous for a tax map. It always has, and it's gone on that way for a long time, not just me.
All right, so that is the area where we need to make a correction in the policy. It sounds like it might leak over to a couple things, but mostly it's going to focus on farms. Farms are all going to be that way. They're going to have a house and they're going to have a business, and they may be registered exactly the way Dave is, as private personal property, the house and the business.
Correct.
Which is, and that's what she's saying is
You may
triggering
find
his
some of
too.
those in the bow too, and I haven't even looked at the list.
So that might be the change that we should look at for, like I said, it might be a little bit of spillover, but it sounds like it's mostly farms
Okay.
or that type of business that we need to maybe get a change in here on that. So it is just one, right? Does that make sense to everybody, at least to look at?
I think we should take it up after we get through, like, January or February.
Yeah.
Let's get, or maybe past
Put
that.
on
To-
the
Let's
back
get through the
burner for now.
budget. I
Sure.
Really,
We'll
really.
get through this stuff, other stuff.
So just a note for you at this point in time, I guess, that we'll come back to that.
Yeah.
And we'll work on that. It's a policy. Actually, I can do it here too, right in my book. I could put a note on this. I think I can. I gotta be smarter than a 3-brain notebook, don't I? For at least a couple of seconds. Well, how does this thing work?
You
There
did
it is.
have, so the listers in our packet, though, gave us this whole bunch of information that didn't have anything to do with this solid waste thing. It had to do with the valuation of utilities, right? I'm looking at it now.
There was that, yeah.
Is there any more information about what is considered, Brandon, to be a depreciable asset versus a non-depreciable asset? Is that somebody's,
It's
Darren.
Darren over there trying to figure his phone out.
you know what I mean? Like, I see the lines, I see all this stuff, but I'm really, and the reason why I'm stuck on this is because I sure don't want to go through all this budget process like it has been, particularly last year where we had a bombshell dropped on us when it came time to set the tax rate.
At the end, yes.
Bad, very bad. So I don't know who can answer that question, whether, the listers here can't, and I couldn't even if I was a lister or anything. So it's really got to do with a definition of what is allowed to be depreciated or not. So it's a huge deal. And I don't know whether you had I know you had wasn't there an email from somebody that helped you explain or something? I don't know.
It seems that the big hit to us is coming from the CLA. That's what is reported from the tax department. Our CLA dropping as low as it is means that we have to adjust their property value by that percentage. So we have to drop that 15%. But the beauty is, if we when we do get through this appraisal and we shoot back up to 100%, there's going to be.
Well, but wouldn't you make the case then that if you had a business, which you do, or I have one, or whoever has a business then, and we're viewing this utility as a business, that we're allowed to depreciate our my farm barn in the same manner that we're allowing this to take place?
No.
Because of the CLA drop?
No.
Why not?
Because the state gave them a special clause that sets that out for them. It's not for us, it's for them.
I still would like,
Wonderful.
I would still
Am I
like
right,
clarity
Graham?
about the definition between the lines and the actual plant itself, the facility.
So,
I mean, you said how many miles are in Weathersfield and so on, and whatever that goes on. But is it an automatic blanket that no matter what their assessment is, that it goes down on a rate?
I don't have the answer to that tonight.
No.
But I did write down the question. I think it's a good question. When I reached out to the Vermont Department of Taxes, she described the depreciation that's currently going on in Weathersfield and noted that it's really not shrinking our grand list much. What's really hurting us is the CLA. So if you look on page 1 of the budget memo, in 2021.
What page in the packet?
Page 35. And I think
Thank
if we
you.
all look at this chart together, and then I'll kind of go through it with you, I think it'll make sense. Is everybody on that page?
35.
35. Do you see that little chart? It's only like 4 rows. It's a 4x4. Back in 2021, our CLA was 93.11. And if you look at the inventory there at 59 million, when it was adjusted, and it's adjusted by that 6.89% to make it 100%, it adjusted it down that percent to 55 million. Well, when you go to 2022, the inventory was 58 million. So yes, it did depreciate slightly, less than $1 million, but our CLA was 87.89. So you take that 58 million, and then you subtract that 12%, and it dropped it down to 51 million.
Who does this work?
This came from the Vermont Department of Taxes.
So they do the math? They
Yes.
do this whole, okay.
Now, that 58 million in 2023, the inventory actually increased to 62 million. But our CLA dropped to 80.97, so that has to get adjusted by almost 20%. So you take 62 million, right, multiply it by 20%, you're talking 12 million, it dropped to 50 million. So that's where we're seeing, that's what we should be concerned about, not.
So the next question is this then, what information is being transferred, which I've said for a couple of years now, by the town to the Vermont Tax Department to be considered the most current year's information regarding the sales of properties? And I know that I know it's a 5-year rolling average, and I know 1 year falls off and the next year comes on. So are we talking about 40 or 50 properties or 100 properties or 200 properties? I don't care how many transfer. There are 1,650 properties in Weathersfield.
Yep.
What is driving the train, and is it accurate? And
So with this 59 million here, or 62 million in 23, that gets reported to them from.
Wait. Let me jump in real quick. Sorry. He's talking about the CLA number now. What's driving the train on the CLA number that's causing that to change? Am I right?
Yes.
So listers are required to do a download is it every day or is it once a week? You have to do some form of a download and send
That's for the homestead.
Okay. And then what information is sent to the state from us to be recorded?
Is it quarterly? I can't imagine it's daily.
I know
So when
certain
you have some
information-
sales, I know you and I have talked about this before, Barb, and I don't mean to jump in.
No, you're fine. You're
So
fine. Go ahead.
so you also have sales though that you quote throw out, because if it's a relative sale and they're selling it for $1, they're not viewing that as a valid
Right,
transfer.
anytime, even though, if it comes through as a parent-child or grandparent-grandchildren sale, even though there's money swapping hands, it's still an invalid sale because it's family, okay? That's how that gets done. But when property is sold, the selling price actually gets put into the transfer paperwork.
Yes.
I see.
So I hope everybody understands where I've been going with all this, because if we have 1,650 parcels in town, and we do, and it's on a 5-year rolling average, so that 1 year goes off, so 2018 will fall off. All the sales, they're gone. 23 comes on, the new sales. If you have a property in town that is on the grand list presently at $100,000 and it sells for $200,000, that's what get loaded up to the state. I guess what I'm saying is, how many of those happen? No, it could be 200, I don't care. 200, let's say. In percentage basis, it's not a lot. Because remember, you have 1,650 parcels in town. So that means that 1,400 don't change hands, that they're stable. So there's nothing to compare on those that don't get sold. So I'm wondering whether or not, and a lot of them are not 100% over. I followed it really closely. I can go online all the time and find out what the actual sales were. I mean, there are properties in town that are valued at 500,000, they sell for 700. Well, that's not $1 million. It's not 100% over. So I guess all I'm looking for is to find out what information is being transferred to be considered.
And I think that comes to the question I've asked before in this very exact same conversation is, where is the formula for what you're talking about? Where that house that's $100,000 on our books sells for $200,000, where's the formula that the state is using on that $200,000 number that hits our CLA like this? Because they've got something they're doing up there, and I don't know what that is.
And then put it and go further, and then put it, okay, that's 1. But on a percentage basis, it's 0.0003 or something like that of all of Weathersfield.
But without knowing,
One sale.
but without knowing the formula and what they're using for data and input in that formula, there's no real way of correlating that percentage like you are. I think is all I'm trying to say. Because the major point here is whatever they created to do this ain't working. Because we hit COVID, which is a total anomaly, and it has really screwed everything up across the whole state.
Well,
it's not just us.
I've gone further. I've studied the town, and in my email to the school, I put it out to them also. I hope that we're not riding this CLA train that is going to be the magic pill cure of everything in Weathersfield, because it's not going to be. I've studied the towns that are on the list that have secured reappraisal and are done, and their tax and their grand lists, even though they may have increased by 50 or 75%, the tax rates didn't drop accordingly. What a miracle.
Well,
It didn't.
the other simple thing that I look at is we're going to get a reappraisal done. Let's say we jump to 100% or 99.98, whatever. What's it going to be 2 years out? Because again, that formula is going to start to kick in up at the state with the data we're giving them there, and it's going to change again. And typically it's in a downward direction. So, okay, you do it, but there's something broken in their system, and I don't know if they're looking at that. That's the scary part. We can only do what we can do, which is to go through the appraisal. Any more on this, David?
No. Is there any other? What was the time frame that was set out? That who's going to start that? Wasn't it not going to start until 24 July or something?
Or 25, isn't it?
Yes.
No. The end was 25. By May of 25, it was going to be completed.
What, the
No,
appraisal?
By
Yes.
April of 2025 is when it commences,
Yes.
and it will be completed in 2027. think
That
so,
was-
2 years.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought they were
That
starting
was the
next
other
year.
company.
That was NEMC that was starting earlier. When we switched back over to NIMRIC, it kicked it out.
Then I gave the school the wrong idea. Then nobody's gonna be happy on this. The town's not gonna be happy, and neither is the school.
Well, there's not much we could do about it. We
Well, I
we
misunderstood.
acted on it.
Well, no, I know that, but I misunderstood the start and the stop date. I thought
Now,
that
even if it were the other company, we had barriers in place that would have prevented it from commencing anyway, including software changes that would have needed to take
So when
place
you and I
this year.
spoke, I don't know when, a few days ago, whatever, and you said you couldn't believe that the CLA will drop again past 80, put your seatbelt on. Because I've read towns, and you can feel free to pull them up. There are towns in the state that are 70 or less. It's not impossible.
It's certainly not impossible.
It is not. Any further discussion on this at this time? Any input from anybody out there? Barb, you all set for now?
There's a lot going on in the listers, and I would encourage anybody who would like to be a lister that we're gonna find a way to pay you money, and I don't know what it's gonna be. I'm out on a loan by saying that, but it's gonna be very complicated here when we go through the reappraisal, and it is for Barb now, but people like numbers. That's the place to be.
Mm-hmm. Yes, please. Anybody interested? You do have to take paperwork out for that. You have to be elected for that position.
But there are two appointments
There
that
are-
we could appoint.
But they would still have to run for the office in March. We can only appoint to fill the seat. Actually, on that one, we might be able to appoint it to,
For life.
well, no,
Somebody wanted to do it.
actually, no, if it's elected, if it's an elected position, you can only fill it till an election is had, I believe is the policy
That's correct.
from the state.
But if nobody runs for it, then they could request an appointment again.
Okay,
Um,
true. So anyway, Brandon, I had asked you, I don't know if you got a chance to do this or not, it's a quick thing. The date at which those petitions all need to be in for anybody running for office. Do you have that?
I don't have that number, or
Okay.
that date. I will ask the town clerk.
Yeah, let's have that for the next meeting, please, so we can make sure we get that out there. Because they're board members here that have to have paperwork in.
You do need to sign too. There was a time that you did not, but Floanne said that you have to go get 25 signatures again.
Yeah. Okay. So that is the listers. Thank you, Barb, for coming in tonight. Appreciate it. Listers report. Next is there anybody here for social services appropriations? Okay, good. That takes me to the land use update. Where did he go? Oh, there he is.
Yeah,
Hi,
so,
Ryan. This
and I think it sounded like Holly was online. I don't know if she is.
She is. She was.
So fairly recently in September, we switched from having me as a hired service to I was hired by Windsor along with Hallie, who is my planning counterpart, and so we've now started working across 3 towns. Hired by Windsor, working in Windsor, Weathersfield, and Rockingham, and since getting started and working out some of the technology kinks and the complications of working in multiple towns, I think we've kind of started to operate pretty smoothly, and so that's been working well. And it was at least a year ago that Mike had mentioned trying to get regular updates from the different commissions to come in and just keep the board up to speed with what's going on in town and what they're working on. So I wanted to do that tonight and go over, I guess, just the Planning Commission and the Conservation Commission, what the projects they're working on, and the Zoning Board is a little bit more, they're in hearings, so we won't talk about that too much, other than the one thing that's ongoing is a joint hearing between the Planning Commission and the Zoning Board, working on that PUD project for Habitat for Humanity, which is ongoing. So the Conservation Commission, I guess, has kind of 6 projects that they're looking at, and one of them was something that started long time ago, before I was in town, was the waterway naming project. And so basically, a request came in from the state asking about unnamed streams and streams with multiple names, lots of other things. They wanted clarification, and they pointed to Rockingham as an example of a town that went through the process of naming the unnamed streams, cleaning up the confusing multi-name streams, or single streams with multiple sections that are named differently. Anyway, Jeff Pelton, who's no longer on the commission, did a lion's share of that work and came up with basically a final proposal. And since him leaving and me taking over, we've kind of gotten to a point where we don't know what to do with it. So I think what we've discussed as a board is we want to kind of start from square one. Tonight's not the night we'll talk about it, but at some point I'd like to set up a time to come in and talk about that project specifically, go over what the request was from the state, and how the select board wants the Conservation Commission to go forward with it or not. So that's one thing that's that they're working on. The town forest kiosk. So there's been, I guess not in the last year, there haven't been many trails worked on, but 2 years ago they installed a beginner mountain bike trail in the town forest, which you can be connected to from the state park, and lots of other West Windsor trails. And so we've built a kiosk signboard, so when you get to the town forest it says, or it will say when there's stuff on the board, this is the trail map, you're in the Weathersfield Town Forest, I have information on ticks because the ticks are really bad in that power line area, things like that. So that's been installed. I just need to switch out the roof. There's a metal roof on it, and after speaking with Velco, they would prefer it not be a metal roof. So I got cedar shakes, and we're gonna fix that. One of the projects that I'm not sure if it's still ongoing is a interpretive trail. We had talked about getting ARPA funds for signs, and I think last year, or maybe it wasn't a full year ago, we had a couple of ARPA meetings and we talked about potential projects, and Ellen Clattenburg had put in a proposal or a cost estimate for what all that stuff would cost. So we haven't heard anything back on that, and if that's not on the list, then it might not be something that we're working on. So that was just sort of remaining on the list. We've been working on a new member packet so that new members who join the board can get familiar with what the board does and what their role is and the different sets of bylaws in the town plan, and explain how the Conservation Commission is an advisory board to these other commissions, and so what the role can look like and what projects have been done in the past, things like that, just to get new members familiar quickly with the different maps and documents and stuff. Town forest management plan. So the county forester, one of their services is working with municipalities on municipally owned land. So we've had Hannah Dallas, who's the Windsor County forester, do an inventory of the property for the timber resources, trails, forest types, different ecological things. So I think she's completed the inventory and will be distributing a draft management plan to review, and we can share that with the select board and the planning commission, and get some input on what she found during her inventory. And last I talked to her, it sounded like she was hoping to have that draft done before the end of the year. And then regular hikes, which is something that's new, the board hasn't really talked about, other than Steve Aikenhead has led lots of different walks around town, historical walks, and to different locations. And it sounded like he was hoping the Conservation Commission would either work with him or start leading some of his walks or new walks, different things like that. So we're talking about having kind of a regular schedule for leading walks around town to show people where you can go for walks and where different things are. So those are kind of the ongoing things at the Conservation Commission. We had So I have this for the Conservation Commission and the Planning Commission. It's just kind of the project log. And so unofficial things that we're not really working on, but things we're thinking about in the future include the scenic resources inventory. It's something that the Planning Commission has worked on, and Howard Beach on the Planning Commission brought it up to the Conservation Commission at least a year ago. And so we thought we could help out by going to the scenic vistas that are called out in the town plan and describing them better and taking photos and stuff like that, GPS information. And so we did a few of those, but haven't gotten very far. And it sounds like at the Planning Commission level, that's something that's been discussed a little bit. And so there might be some collaborative effort on that. So I guess that's all I have on the Conservation Commission. The Planning Commission, any questions on that, or should I move on to the Planning Commission?
Any questions from the board, from anybody? Anybody? Go ahead.
Okay, so the Planning Commission they work both in a quasi-judicial capacity as well as on other projects for the town. So they're also, like I said, the PUD project for Habitat for Humanity. That's one thing that's coming up again. They're going to be here on the 11th of December for their hearing continuation. The commission's been working on a town plan amendment for the energy section since before I started the job, and it seems like we're pretty close, and it could be as soon as January that the board acts on it and either decides to keep working on it or send it up to the select board for your approval or review. So that one's pretty close. The other thing with the town plan is it's expiring in 2025, and so we're starting to look at what needs to be updated per the statutes, what's changed, and new requirements that wasn't required in the past plan update. And that's something that Hallie's been working on, figuring out the different sections, because that's what the board decided they want to start with. Start with the stuff that's missing, get that done, and then they can go through and revise anything that needs to be revised. An aquifer protection overlay district, so that's another thing that's kind of lingered from past administrators. I think a lot of the work was done and the language was adopted by the select board, but the language that was included in the packet wasn't really final. It had a lot of like draft language in it. It said blank town instead of Weathersfield and different things like that. So we're looking at cleaning up the language that's in there and then providing a map that shows where this overlay district applies, because that doesn't exist yet. Actually, Mark has helped, Mount Scottney Regional Commission helped prepare a draft map. And so we took that data and sent it to CAI, the company that administers the GIS online maps. And so they're going to take that overlay data and put it on our current zoning map so we can see what we're working with. So that's not in a hearing or anything, that's just being worked on. Another thing that's ongoing and has been is the PUD review section in the bylaws, and that's pretty outdated. So we've been looking, and it's been since January that we've really made changes on it, just because permits came in and things got busy, and so permits have slowed down now, and we're starting to, and with Hallie helping out, we have a little bit more time to start looking at some of these things that have been tabled for a long time. But that's one of the things they're working on. And then most recently, a discussion about private airstrips and helipads. There was something that was sent out from the state a couple months ago, maybe it was a little longer than that, talking about how these are just popping up in a lot of places. Just large landowners putting in an airstrip or a helipad for their recreational aircraft and causing nuisances to their neighbors. So that was one of the things that the board thought that they could do quickly rather than lump it in with a bunch of other changes that takes a long time to go through. So there's a hearing that's been warned for January, which will be the Planning Commission's first review of basically saying in each district, private airstrips and helipads aren't allowed. So that's what's on the ongoing project list. and there's been lots of talk about other things that need to be updated or fixed in the bylaws and things like that. So if you're ever on the packet, this is always in there. And so once we start crossing off some of these things, we can start looking at like the scenic resources section of the town plan, like I mentioned. There's been discussion about an airport overlay district, again, something that's been talked about for years before me, and a variety of other issues. So that's kind of my land use update to bring you up to speed with what the different boards are working on.
Thank you, Ryan. I'm on the planning commission. So I'll just add a little bit, which is that like working on town plan chapters or sections. We have several that you'll see on the agendas, but we've kind of tried to narrow our focus to one and get it done, rather than sit in a meeting and talk about 4 things and get nowhere over 4, 5, or 6 months. We're trying to get ourselves focused on one item and get through it. So just because something is on the agenda doesn't mean we'll necessarily get to it. In some cases, we're just using them as placeholders, but we are working on them. And as far as town plan, it is important that we get those elements that are now required and are missing in the town plan. And once that's done, you can at that point readopt the town plan within your timeline and just continue to move forward with any updates that people in the town feel are necessary to any chapter. But you got to keep your plan current. Any questions or comments for Ryan? Dave?
I've been trying to follow the PUD application. I think somebody had better be keeping up with the minutes on that, because when I go online, the last minutes that I see of the zoning board are not since like June 26th or something. So when I just learned right now that apparently the hearing has been continued to like December something. Hearings are very legal matters, and the last I'd known, there was a joint meeting between the planning commission and the zoning board. But when I looked at the minutes to that, there were only 2 zoning board members present. At least that's what the minutes said, which is not a quorum of the zoning board. So I would like that to be much more clearer for those people that are interested. I know I've heard different members from time to time complaining that the public doesn't come and be engaged. But a lot of us are busy, and so and I have gone into meetings before and listen, but if you try to keep up with what the minutes are, to recover some of that, and they're not there. So there's minutes in the planning commission that talk about that PUD thing, but if it's a joint meeting, it's got to be warned. I don't know what the application said, whether it was going to be before the zoning board for an amendment, or how the applicant described that intent of that meeting. I also know that I'm not aware of any length of time that 6 months is allowed to continue a hearing. Seems like an awful long time. And it would have had to been described in the minutes where that hearing that was in place was recessed to. So there's a lot of things I don't know. Just trying to keep up with that. So I guess that's it for the.
So the combined hearing has been taking place as part of the planning commission meetings. So the zoning board members would show up to their meeting, and nothing had. In June is probably the last time that there's been discussion on it. I think it was continued to maybe a September meeting, and the applicant had asked to have that continued again, and so the hearing was opened and continued.
So it was a planning board hearing?
It's a combined hearing that took place at the planning commission's regular meeting.
I'd like some clarification about that, because if the applicant is asking for a zoning board variance which you could not give, then that would be required to have a zoning board hearing.
The zoning board is one of the boards who are conducting the reviews within this combined hearing.
But if I read it correctly, there were only 2 members present of the zoning board in the minutes.
So at the
Just
last.
take a look at it.
Okay.
The,
I do see that. Todd and Grace Knight were there.
but,
What is that?
but at that time, Joe Buble is on the planning commission,
I
is
see.
also a member of the zoning board,
Okay.
is the 3rd member and constitutes a quorum of that board as well. He was sitting on both boards.
So,
We just accepted his resignation from that board.
but here I am, a nobody,
Well,
and you're in the middle of all of these, and if you look at the
I know.
the minutes don't reflect that. So take a look at the minutes.
I understand what you're saying. There's also, it's a combined hearing, but each board has individual responsibilities and decisions to make independent of the other. Even though they're together, both boards don't vote on, like the zoning board doesn't vote on decisions that are handled by the planning commission, and the planning commission doesn't vote on decisions that are made by the zoning board of adjustment. They're separate entities, but we're working together through a process as it's called out in statute, as I understand.
And
So,
in the bylaws.
and in the bylaws, correct. So even though both boards are there, one board may just sit there and listen all night long while the other board is involved in testimony and taking action. And the other board might not do anything. And then it moves to the other board, and which time we'll be, once it goes to the zoning board, then the planning commission will be in that role, sitting and just listening. And we
I'm
won't
simply
take that.
pointing out where if somebody is trying to pick up the pieces,
Yes.
it's very hard. You're living and breathing through this as a member, not me.
Right, and I understand what you're saying, because you've pointed this out to me before, and I looked through it some, and you're right, there's a bunch of stuff that's,
My suggestion, because there's no reflection of the minutes in the zoning board that they held a hearing for this application. Take a look. I'm not stupid. I've already done it. So I suggest.
and I think that, I'm sorry, I think that Diana was there at those meetings too. Go ahead.
Take a look at what's on the town website.
I know.
So what I suggest is, if it's this complicated, and it is to the public, that I would suggest having 2 sets of hearings. Take it up in this issue in the planning board regular meeting, and then have some separation of minutes where somebody can find out, or the zoning board is taking it up.
You can't do them separate.
Oh, I think you can.
You can't. The statute says it's a combined hearing. That's on a PUD. It's set up that way in a PUD. We don't have control of that language.
We have a PUD in our zoning bylaws. though.
Yes, we do. But the process is called, how that process works is called out in statute, and it's a combined hearing. I don't think we have a choice on that.
I guess you're just missing the point.
And I could be.
So
Anyway.
the intention on the minutes was to have, so the zoning board writes their portion because they do a good job of tracking the exhibits and the procedures and stuff like that. And so what we've done is combined what Diana produces and what Chauncey was producing into one set. And my intention was to have the minutes that have both boards' sets on both pages. And so I didn't check. They might be lost on the zoning board page, and it might be up to date.
It's the other way around.
But yeah.
I don't even know. I didn't look on the planning boards.
Okay.
Any other questions for Ryan? Anybody?
So Ryan, you're going to be combining those minutes in a written update so that they're on both?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Ryan, thank you very much for coming in tonight.
Okay.
That'll take us back to item 6. Vote to award temporary bridge bid. The discussion about the bridge was had before, so at this point, we're looking at a motion to award a temporary bridge bid. Do I hear that motion? Anybody?
Page 13.
Just give me
I
one
lost
second.
mine.
We're gonna share.
I can't find, that kicked me out.
Dave, keep an eye on your power too, because I stole your power cord.
It is.
Okay, here we go.
Is it, so the percentage, is it,
Yeah.
so mine's like almost 100 though.
Yeah, that's why I took your cord.
No, but it's still at 97, so
Yeah.
does that
You
mean
should,
it's,
you should be good, yeah.
what page are you, Brandon?
Page 13.
Page 13.
Vote to award temporary bridge project.
Yes.
I'd like to hear a lot more before I even think about putting a motion on the floor. So,
Well,
I mean,
we-
this is the first night of a presentation for this.
Not really, because we had to release the proposal for bid, and we had a great deal of discussion then. So we can have discussion, but I think we should have a motion on the floor and a second, and then enter into the discussion. We only have one proposal anyway. And again, we authorized the release of the RFP before, so we did discuss what this was all about previously. So do I hear a motion to award the temporary bridge bid?
A motion to award the bid.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Now we're in discussion. Go, Dave.
Well, there's a whole page here for Brandon to talk about. I mean,
Okay.
I have one question just before we get started. I believe we have a weight limit posted on that bridge currently. Okay, what's that weight limit?
Well, you were told to drop down to 16,000 pounds, but I was given a 12,000 pound sign.
Yep.
So that's what I put up.
Okay, so I just wanted to make sure everyone's aware that there's currently a,
Correct.
because of the
It's 16,000
safety.
pounds.
And what would happen if they put this temporary bridge in? What would it raise
It
it
would
to?
go back to a standard rating for T94 or T95, so anything can drive on it.
And just as a point of information, Michael Todd, myself, and Ray did an inspection of that bridge as well as the other two bridges that were recently damaged from the flooding. So we have had visual inspection.
So if you guys remember, it would be on the downstream side of
Yeah.
that bridge.
Yes.
Yep Street had two steeper banks, so we're working on it.
So a fire truck cannot go over that bridge right now, right? A fully loaded fire truck.
Our dump truck train is supposed to go across it,
Or fuel truck.
or a log truck.
Can I ask what bridge you're talking about?
A Scotty Basin.
A Scotty Basin.
Oh, thank you.
Sorry. Brendan, you want to go ahead and move into this proposal?
Yeah, so we received one bid from Daniels Construction. That was for $69,500. Ray and I did meet with the treasurer. We've also met with FEMA. We've further discussed with the state. So the way the reimbursement process works is you have to go out to bid. Everything has to be documented, which it is. And then once the select board approves this bid, if you do, we then have to go into and sign a contract. And then that contract gets sent to FEMA. FEMA obligates the funds, and at that point, the state can release the funds to us after we pay the invoice. So we pay the invoice, and then the state can send us our reimbursement. The issue is in this case, we have a bridge rental fee that can't be completely predicted. When we have the temporary bridge installed, we'll go out to bid. And when we go out to bid, we'll get bids back based on the engineering specs that we have to replace the bridge deck. And then the contractor has to line up the work. So it could be 6 months, it could be 9 months, it could be 12 months. So what they do is they give us an estimate, and the maximum is 6 months. Is that right, Rick?
Correct.
So they'll go for 6 months in the first reimbursement. So they'll basically, so it'd be like $1,500 times 6, whatever that number is, plus the $69,500 we'd get back. But there's a match requirement. The FEMA local share is 75-25, and then the state kicks in 12.5%. So we're responsible for the other 12.5%. And that other 12.5% could be between, $10,000 to $11,000. Ray and I were discussing, where could this money come from for this temporary bridge? And we do have a highway capital maintenance and improvements reserve. It currently has $89,000 in it. And then if the fund balance recommendation is approved, it'll have $104,000 in it. So we could use that reserve account for this project. We'll have further matches, especially when we do the bridge. I think Ray and I were talking numbers, it was 500 to 600,000 estimated. So, you know, we're looking at a 12.5% match requirement on the fix for the bridge too. And we have a couple of other projects, so we are looking at, we're going to need to take out a loan because we have to pay for these expenses first and then get reimbursed later. So the treasurer, Ray and I are meeting tomorrow to discuss that.
Are we guaranteed to get these funds from FEMA though? Or is that just, oh, we'll wait and see, yeah, we're gonna do, or?
So they designate the funds once we go through this process, and if it was damaged in the storm, which this bridge was, then we get reimbursed for the work. And that's the way that it's been presented to us.
And just another point of information, in looking at the bridge, what are they called? The tensioning?
Trusses.
The trusses. There's extensive damage underneath with rebar missing, extensive chunks of concrete missing. It's in pretty bad shape. It's busted cables. It's in pretty bad shape. Just for full awareness, it's going to have to be repaired no matter what.
Yeah.
Go there.
So for $69,000, that's rental, right? I mean, they're keeping the ownership of the bridge.
Yep, that's the installation of the
That's
bridge,
just to
and
put
then
it
they
in.
take the bridge back.
Have you contacted A&R?
I have not. That would be on the contractor that's doing the work.
So, have you I think you told me that you contacted the landowners.
Yes.
It's out of the towns right away.
So I've talked to both, or I think Ray, you've talked to Rockledge Farms,
I gotta
and
go
then
back
I've
and
talked
talk
to
to him.
Willie.
So the answer is I don't know.
For what?
Either the landowners, I mean, that, we're out of the towns right away. You
You
can,
can temporary easement, they'll have to sign temporary easement. One landowner has already said that he wants a temporary bridge and no one loses business. No traffic going over the bridge.
and A&R has like, I don't know, October 15th or the 1st, they're out of the water. Nobody's in the water. So it would have to be done on an emergency basis. I wouldn't rely on the contractor to do that. I mean, it's a partnership here.
What were you gonna say, Ray?
We worked with the contractor to do it.
Yeah.
We always, the Lottery Lane, we went and got the easements. We worked on the permits together.
The Lottery Lane wasn't done on December like this. It wasn't
And
done.
this bridge, if you read it, it's 50-something feet long. It's all the work's gonna be done on the banks of the river, not in the river.
I talked to Dan, and we currently have town council drafting the easements, the temporary easements.
You haven't asked Steve Heyer about, I'm not in favor, I don't know what the board wants to do, but I'm not in favor of draining the reserve accounts to pay for this. So, what about the engineer? Some engineer's gonna be involved with a bill, outside of, I don't know whether they're gonna allow this temporary bridge just to magically drop in place or not, without an engineer.
So we're not proposing, so the 69,500, we're not proposing that comes out of the highway capital maintenance and improvements. We're trying to figure out what to do with the matches. And that matches between 10 and 11,000 for this project. You know, using the highway capital maintenance and improvements reserve was the only match other than the rainy day fund that we could determine to use.
But if you're the contractor, you're gonna say, pay me by like 30 days. So
Correct.
there's gonna be a check here written.
There's going to be a loan. So Ray and I are meeting with the treasurer tomorrow to discuss loan options and a line of credit, because we're going to need that for all the work that we're doing, which is consistent with what other towns are doing for FEMA work.
So you're just gonna say that we're not gonna pay until, like, you're gonna go to whoever didn't we change town banks? Who do we do with now?
M&T Bank.
Yeah, well, that's a different name.
It is.
So,
So People's Bank
got bought out.
from M&T Bank.
So you're just gonna go to them for I don't know what, you're gonna have to make up a number, cause it's not gonna be 69,000, cause I can't believe it's $18,000 a year for rent on top of the 69,500.
That's the only bid that we received.
No, I get that. There's no way you're gonna get me believe that they're gonna have that, new bridge in place in 1 year. Not gonna happen. Not with the permits and everything's gonna be required, an engineer. We could be a couple of years, as a matter of fact, with this temporary bridge. And that's okay, but just go into it with your eyes open. So that's what they're saying that this is. It's $18,000 a year plus 69,000. So your line of credit, or it's gonna say $100,000 to be due in what, 2 years? No payments up until then?
No, you have to make the payment. To get
Not necessarily, there
reimbursed,
could
to get
be a loan.
reimbursed, you have to make the payment.
And there's a program out there right now, a low interest program that we're applying for.
Next
Um,
page, Dave.
So this-
The next page is the
Yeah.
terms.
So, you know, we're definitely going after that, but right now we need to put a temporary bridge in place. And, you know, the treasurer, like I said, the treasurer, Ray and I are meeting tomorrow to discuss loan options, but we're all comfortable with going forward with this contract because it has to be done.
What did you say, August, next page, which is?
Oh, the page 13 is the second. He has his memo on 12, the Daniels Construction. He has lump sum total, then bridge rental, the fees.
Yeah. But it does, but we don't have any way of knowing the length of time that it's gonna take to do this. So that would be somehow coupled together with how much money that's gonna seek for a loan. You'd have to somehow gauge what's going on.
Well, you could let your overrun come from the rainy day account down the road and pay yourself back there, as opposed to putting that in a loan that's gonna carry a payment, right?
Yeah, and the
One
feds
thing-
do this in a 6-month increment, so every 6 months they renew it. So like at the 6-month mark, you know, they'll base this on 1,500 times 6 months. And then when we get to like month 4, month 5, we say, okay, we think we're gonna need it for another 4 to 5 months. And that all gets included in the reimbursement. We're still working on determining whether the interest rate's reimbursable or not, but I think we're gonna be on the hook for the interest rate. So.
Any more questions, Ray?
One thing you have going for us is we already have the bridge, deck design done. It's all engineered. And we've already talked to, people about permits for that. So the state, all the permitting agencies are aware of the project already. And it's a deck replacement, not the entire bridge. So they ripped the deck off and they have decks that are actually pre-built. You can set right in place. And so the construction period is a short period.
Well, but when we went out there and looked at that, Ray, we talked about possibly pushing that back on one side for a better flow rate.
Yeah, I talked to the engineer, and the way the natural terrain is, the water goes around the bridge. The reason that thing's susceptible now is those little trusses hang down and get hit. The new bridge deck is solid concrete, and it's smooth on the bottom. There is no ribs.
Wouldn't it be a little higher too?
It would be, well, the things are about 18 inches deep now, and the new bridge deck is probably gonna be a foot thick. So you have 8 inches there anyway. But the rocks aren't gonna hit, they're gonna hit a solid beam of concrete. They're not gonna hit little narrow, trusses.
Okay.
We're not gonna use that same design.
Well, but what you're trying to point out is that we're ahead of that game already.
There was some damage during RV.
Yep.
That was documented to that bridge, years ago. And, I had it on my 10-year replacement plan, and this storm finished it off.
Yep.
It's not gonna make it.
Yeah, and Dave, I think you were the one that brought it up. We have to do something.
Yes.
There's people that live out there. We've got to do something.
Yes.
So
It's not like there's a covered bridge on the other side, so it's really hard.
Yes, can't work.
yeah. Okay. Any further discussion? Are you?
So when it says to approve this, then what happens? The approval comes with what would be the motion then? The motion would be then to let the administration secure the loan, or no?
So, once the board approves this, I'm gonna draft up a contract and then send it over to Daniels. When the treasurer and I and Ray meet tomorrow, we're gonna discuss loan options, and I assume the treasurer will be here at the next select board meeting with loan documents. If not, then the first meeting in January. So,
And part of the discussion was, if we do use the reserve for any of this, I want to have a comprehensive plan on how to build it back up. And I don't want to just use the money and not put any more money back in it.
Well, the reimbursement money could always go back in there.
I just want to have that.
but-
Loan out.
depleting it, not thinking about.
Yeah,
putting back in.
yeah, take the loan, yeah.
But
So,
we're talking matches for that reserve account.
Correct.
Yeah.
right.
I just want
And
to
like, we
clarify.
use 11,000, I want to put 11,000 back over the course of
I-
5 years, whatever it takes.
So vote to award the temporary bridge bid. Do you want the numbers in there, Dave?
Well, due to the contract, you should just say,
Motion to
to
award.
reference Daniel's construction bid, their financial page is on this.
If you could put the actual number in the minutes for FEMA, in the vote, and then $1,500 per month, if you could break that
Okay,
up.
so which numbers do you want?
69,500 for the installation and $1,500 per month for the rental.
August, you made the motion, you're okay with that?
I am.
And Kelly, you seconded, second's okay?
Yep.
So the motion has been modified to include $69,500 for installation and $1,500 per month for rental of the temporary replacement bridge.
Now, just real quick,
Go ahead.
the way that FEMA is doing this is in 6-month increments. So I don't know if the board wants to limit the $1,500 to 6 months and then we can revisit it as well. Okay.
I don't think that's a good idea because they could up the rent on us.
Yeah.
We don't want to. They've left this open. So if it takes a year or two to fix it, we know what it is.
Very shrewd point.
Yes.
They're probably watching.
Oh, somebody is.
up too.
Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion to award the temporary bridge bid, $69,500 for installation, $1,500 per month rental on the temporary replacement bridge, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. It is unanimous.
Oh, Wendy didn't say nothing.
Oh.
She's still there?
Wendy, you still there?
She's muted.
She fell asleep.
Yeah.
Wendy, can you hear us?
Can anybody hear us?
Anne Marie, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes.
Okay. So Wendy has either stepped out or is otherwise, at this moment, we have a 4 to nothing vote, which carries the motion. Next on the agenda,
Hold on, I've got something for you to consider.
go ahead.
So I'm not in favor of waiting 2 weeks. So we just granted the bid.
Yep.
So why don't we just make another motion to allow the town manager to sign the loan contract to install the bridge, the temporary bridge on the Scotty
Done.
Basin?
Yeah.
Huh?
Get it done
We
before
don't need to
snow's
meet again.
long.
Make the motion.
Yeah.
Would you want
Well, the treasurer, and so that the town manager could sign on behalf, right? Or whoever needs to sign the loan documents that the treasurer outlines. It might be you. I don't know. I'm fine with making it happen. We don't need to meet 2 more weeks or a month.
So make your motion to either the town manager or the chair of the select board sign the loan documents
Yeah,
for this.
so you're also gonna have to come up with a number for the loan. So between the treasurer, I'll allow that to the administration to
So make your motion.
I'll second it.
I'm making a motion that we allow the town manager and the chair and the head of the Department of Highway to secure and the treasurer, the town treasurer, to secure the financial obligations for the, what are we calling it?
Temporary bridge.
Temporary bridge and rental for the Scotty Basin Road.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Were you gonna add something to that?
No, just, I don't know who Steve will say that has to sign it. So if you have to sign it as the chair, then that's in that motion.
Yes.
I don't know
That's
whether
what I
he'll
was
say the
going for.
manager or whoever, because the select board signs the warrants.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, I understood.
Yep.
I'm okay. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion to authorize the chair or of the select board or the town manager or the treasurer, whoever, to sign the loan documents for the temporary bridge construction project, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. I try to restate these things as closely as I can, so we just keep having that record of what it says. So,
Well, I didn't want to wait, and then you. and then
No, I
Brandon-
thank you for
Brandon
that.
Said January. I said, okay, wait a minute.
yeah, let's get it done. That way you can just move on with it, Brendan, as quick as possible. We don't have to go like he said, we don't have to wait 2 weeks to come back here.
Yeah.
We could have it done the end of the week if Steve's rolling. The bank's rolling.
Yeah,
Everybody's rolling.
We're all set.
Good. Perfect. He's like, shut up. I'm tired. Okay. Temporary bridge is done. Bicycle pedestrian path, Perkinsville. This is a return of an item. Brandon, would you explain that?
I'll actually defer to Malia.
Julia?
So it'll be a similar project that you've discussed from before, but this time we're going for a different grant.
Yeah.
This one's the Transportation Alternative Program. So it's money that the agency, sorry, my name's Malia Critter. I work as a planner over at the Noniscutney Regional Commission. So I've been working with Wade here on a couple grants, and this is one that we're hoping to bring to the table tonight. So this one's due at the end of the week. The awards are anticipated to be announced in March. It's administered by the Agency of Transportation, and it's for the planning of non-motorized forms of transportation. So it's money to incentivize things like ped paths, sidewalk improvements, signals, traffic calming techniques, and other projects of that sort. So for this grant application, we are applying for a scoping study for a section of Route 106 that runs over in Perkinsville through the village there, sort of starting at the bridge over
Black River.
Black River, and then down through Prisons and Fields. The scoping study, we're estimating at about $40,000 based on V-Trans guidance, and the match requirements for this grant would be a 20% match. So if we're applying for a $40,000 project total, we're hoping to have an $8,000 match from the town.
So this project was derived from or came out from the Parks and Rec Committee. We are going by the town plan, and in the town plan there's Weathersfield to develop recreation and safe walking for pedestrians in town in both villages. We chose to pursue this particular project because there's already a section of the sidewalk that was completed years ago between Quarry Road and almost down to the old fire pond in the park, High Street. We were hoping that if this goes through its design, we can pursue grants using this study. If it is ever built, people here at Scotty could look at it, check it out, and see if it's something that would answer their long question about a sidewalk or safe walking area in the village of Scotty on Route 5. It's a lot smaller than the project over here. One thing was discussed in the past is sidewalks. We're trying to stay away from sidewalks. They are not good with salt. They're not good to maintain in the winter. It takes specialized equipment. This project hopefully would produce a widened shoulder, like which is already there in part of the segments. We just basically went through the town plan and figured out where we could start, and this is what we landed on. This is more money that's available. The last time it was discussed, I don't think it was understood. It sounded like more of a sidewalk discussion, and that's what we're trying to answer the question of how to get around a sidewalk and still provide a safe place for folks to walk in the villages, both villages.
And the area has been noted as an area of safety concern, especially with the bridge there and big trucks coming
Yes.
through.
And my hope also is can solve the issue with visibility coming off of Quarry Road. There's a lot of complaints there. You can't see when you're sitting at the end of Quarry Road towards the school. If we have a widened shoulder, we could lay that bank back, have a retaining wall, and it would actually improve visibility. And a lot of people park during events alongside the road. This would provide additional parking. They're going to park there, and they'll actually have a widened shoulder to park on instead of in the road, which they do now. So that's what we got from Parks and Rec.
Any questions?
I have questions.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, I don't have a question. question, I have a comment.
Okay.
The last time this was brought up, it took me by surprise because I didn't know about it. Well, I started talking to people in Perkinsville. And since then, I learned we have a veteran right in the middle of Perkinsville. He has ALS, and he rides his motorized wheelchair on the main road, which is, there's only like a 6-inch between the white line and the end of the road. And his wheelchair is flat. Anyway, he lives in the center of the village, and he drives to his sister's house at the corner of 106 and Upper Falls Road. I mean, that in itself is just a disability issue, and we certainly owe it to him. Anyway, the state also, when we did a speeding study, the village trustees, the Regional Planning Commission studied this, you know, how many cars go by and how fast they go by. But that wasn't the point. I talked to the State Agency of Transportation about it, and they said there's room to narrow the road and still be legal for cars and trucks to go on. And it actually has the effect of slowing traffic through the village, when you have to sort of go stay between the lines, you go slower. And so that's another thing. And then lastly, you know, people who were born in Perkinsville, you know, the Bartons and Richardsons and stuff, they walk on this road. They were born here, and they can, you know, they should have a place to walk. You know, nobody's young, and weather like this, you can't walk in the woods. So you walk on the main road, you know, whatever's plowed. So, that's all I have to say about it. But yes, it would be used. It's not just, hey, this would be nice for, you know, for bike lanes and everything. People actually use this small area through the village to get around.
Well, first of all, I just want to comment on the last thing you said, which is it would be used. Any vote tonight would only be for a study for the state to do this. No, I understand you understand. I just want to make sure everybody understands that you know, again, tonight, any vote on this or a vote to approve this tonight would not be a vote to approve this taking place. This is just a study. I'm not sure we'd even have a vote after this, if would we? Because it's a state highway.
If the grant is approved,
Yes.
you can always deny signing it and
Oh.
not accept the grant.
Oh, okay.
If it comes
All
from
right, thank you for.
The other thing that's a positive is if you apply and you don't get the grant, the state sees a demand and they keep funding available. If people don't apply, they'll start cutting funding. So it helps other towns too. Even if we don't take the grant or get the grant, it's good to apply because it shows an interest.
Okay.
Also, I just wanted to add, I was asked to show where I got it from in the town plan, where the Parks and Rec found it. It's in the Weathersfield Town Plan of 2017 on page 39. It says encourage non-motorized transportation such as biking and walking. Consider the practicality of expanding road widths to accommodate pedestrian and bicycle lanes. Whatever paved roads in the town require resurfacing. Plan for either sidewalks or paved and marked pedestrian bike shoulders on major roads in Perkinsville and Scotty, especially near the school. This would include Route 106 through Perkinsville and Route 5 and 131 into Scotty. Planning Commission, Select Board, and Highway Department were all asked to be part of the people to work on this as well. This was done in 2017, so it was after the Perkinsville School was gone. So,
Yep.
I do agree with what you just said. So I don't want the town to be involved in money that's going into this for this reason. The town doesn't have any jurisdiction over Route 106, zero. And same with Route 5. However, if the state is looking at this, then they would be, it's a state road, so the town doesn't secure any rights of way. And what I'm hearing from the previous conversation here was, well, we're just gonna push this bank back and we're gonna put a retaining wall up and things like that. That's gonna incur on private property that now exists, or shrinking the road or whatever. That would only happen with state, only state. You know, the town could say, hey, how about it? But not construct or in any way deal with that because it involves rights of way and then other things like, well, I know for a fact that there's underground easements for water that comes from High Street and comes over to the Barton's garage and things like that. So there's a number of things that are not that you don't think of that are associated with the roads, or power lines, or cable, or things like that. So that's where I'm at. So I'm perfectly fine with somebody submitting the grant. I don't think that the town, other than walk perhaps with the state, but you're asking for money here. And what you just said is exactly right. To study is not necessarily to build. So, but I would make all those same statements that I just made about here at Route 5 when it's come up about whether or not you want sidewalks or not, and then we get into the debate about, well, you don't really want to do this until you put water or sewer in, because then you're going to have to dig it all up again. You know, we go down all these rabbit holes about what comes first.
Well, we're gonna have the other bike path discussion coming up, the bicycle, that the state is interested in doing on the full length of Route 5, length of the state.
Okay.
Remember?
Yeah.
John brought that in.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
I
Rick.
just want to add, Dave's right, there is a lot of variables.
Yes.
That's why it's a scoping study and a feasibility study, and they'll have to approach all the landowners. A lot of the work, even that retaining wall, would be within the state right away, but it's always nice to include property owners.
But the plan and stuff will come from the state and from the study.
Right.
It will, not from us.
Yeah, but we have to pay money up front.
Yeah, see, that's why.
$8,000.
I don't wanna pay.
Well, you're only gonna pay, you're not gonna pay anything up front.
I don't wanna pay any money.
Yeah, it's $8,000, it's $8,000 for if we get the grant.
Cost year.
If we get the
At
grant.
the end of the grant, all the expenses that are paid, you pay 20% of what is spent.
Oh, okay. So the grant's up to $40,000.
So if it costs $20,000, you pay
8% of that.
20% of that.
40%, yeah.
Well, that's a
$4,000.
big difference.
That's a big difference.
So how come somebody couldn't get
And
that together?
I know with doing state grants, whenever I do a ditching grant, the state comes in and gives me pricing, it's quite a bit more than what it actually costs to do the work. I've found over the past 5 years, I don't know about sidewalks or bike paths or anything, I've never done those.
Okay.
40,000 is just an estimate, it'll still go out to bid and you would
Right.
from there.
And
Okay.
also being on the state highway, I had a discussion about waiving the share, and that's maybe a possibility, we don't know, we can do a different rate.
Because it's a state highway, and why should it be
We
a
don't have any control.
Well, all these
Yeah.
moving parts, though, seems like.
We got the grant.
moving parts? I fix moving parts all the
We got
time.
grant
I
for
like
Stevens
definition.
sign, that was on us to get that grant, for that Stevens sign, the state did not pay for that, so this is the same principle.
Barb,
I'm just kind of curious, how did it work with the sidewalk being put into a Scutney and the widening of the road on 106 when that all happened?
that was 5. That was Route 5, wasn't it?
Well, it goes,
What-
sorry, Route 5 has a sidewalk that goes on to 12A, right?
Yeah.
Right, and there's also, lights in places for lights actually for crosswalks at the main road out here.
But they also widened the road by the school.
Correct.
It's,
There was a couple fatality or a fatality there and several near misses, so they started to widen the shoulder back then.
okay, I was just wondering how that all,
Yeah,
And the state did that back then? That wasn't us?
I believe so, yes.
I'm just hearing some different things, though. So can people clarify what's being applied for? Because it automatically just shrunk from 8,000 now down to maybe
4.
Dave,
or
you have to
1,200
you have to guesstimate how much it's gonna cost for a scoping study. We went to the high end of $40,000. We can't spend any more than $40,000 on this if we get this grant.
So our maximum would be an $8,000 match.
27. It will not go over 40.
But then I also heard you say that they waive it sometimes. So I'm all ears.
The last grant that I looked at that didn't pass, it was a tie vote. That one, there was a little bit of discussion about it being waived because it is a state highway and there was a possibility of that happening. Or having a 10% match instead of 20% match.
So we'll try
I
to
don't
do
know
that.
this grant.
So we'll try to do that, right?
That one's gone.
Oh,
Could we request in the grant submission that they consider, because this is 106, that they consider waiving it if awarded?
I can try August, but I think we should just plan on 8,000 max somewhere. If we accept the grant, maybe a year before we find out anyway. If we get it, we might not even get it. It's not just
Brent.
a point.
So once we get it, we can decide whether we're gonna accept it at that
Exactly.
time.
Yes,
So at this time, we're just submitting an application,
correct,
no strings attached.
correct.
Okay.
The only other concern I'd have, I love the idea of Perkinsville having an area for people to walk and bicycle just like a Scutney. I think it'd be wonderful for the community, especially with what's going on with Hoisington Field. I'm a little bit concerned about the potential 8,000 because we just spent another 8,000 and I wonder where money comes from. But having said that, I like not having the risk. I like the ability to apply for a grant. I like asking for a cost share. The only concern I'd have is I think the letter with your the signature for Mike Todd. I think it'd be wise to fine tune that letter so we're not obligating future not sending a message in the letter. There's a couple statements in there where where is it here?
To entirely reconstruct Hoisington Field, we haven't discussed that.
Yeah, so I think we're making some obligations in the
well,
letter that could be removed.
It is, okay.
One said,
I can revise the letter in the
Oh,
morning.
the town intends to continue to invest in Perkinsville. I think that should be reconsidered because you're making a very wide open statement there. We're obviously going to invest in all of Weathersfield, but I think we should be cautious about signaling something that we may or may not do.
I certainly wouldn't disclose the last line, which says funds are available in town highway budget, because then they'll say, good, you pay for it.
Yeah, we don't, that's information for us, that doesn't need to be in here.
Yes.
And please make, if I'm signing something, please make that Michael Todd. Not
Make sure they
Mike.
tell you about it first.
Don't say you got the money when you're looking for money.
Yeah, you want to tell them we're totally broke. We're fixing every bridge in town. Okay.
Absolutely.
I guess they're just looking for an answer saying that you would be willing, if you decide to accept the grant, you would be willing to pay $8,000.
Yeah, so you could,
We don't know until we get the money. or grant.
you can, so the vote here tonight would be to authorize me to sign this, once it's corrected.
Motion to submit the grant and motion to, for the chair to sign the cover letter for the grant.
Do I hear a second?
Second,
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion?
somebody's gonna revise the letter.
Yeah, he's going to. Yes. And I was actually going to ask, Brandon, do you have an idea where the $8,000 is going to come from? I see it says here something, the town highway budget, but is that your intent, or did you have an idea?
Yes, and then we probably flesh it out further as we need here.
Well, he's our money guy, so the guy I rely on.
I think, well, who wrote the letter, Ray?
I just drafted
Okay.
it, and Jason tweaked it, and then we got
There
it.
she is.
Yeah. No worries.
So she has the 8,000. So she has the $8,000, right?
I was just wondering who wrote it because I didn't know if this had already been discussed with Ray. Okay, so let's get together in the morning.
I got the draft of the letter at the same time you did.
Yeah, let's get together in the morning and we'll carefully craft the wording.
When
for
is
letter.
this, when is the decision?
December 8th.
It's end of the week.
End of this
No,
week.
no, the decision, they're gonna,
March.
show it somewhere.
It'll take a year or so, right?
They're
6
hoping,
months.
awards are anticipated to be announced March of 2014, so by the time they have to get the money out.
2014. That was like the
2020.
Paperwork, right?
We're a little late.
That's okay. I've got a
We
bill.
missed that one.
I've actually got a bill on one of my accounts for 1/2/28, and it's late, 120 days. So figure that one out. Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. Brandon, you're going to fix the letter, you and
Yeah.
Ray, and call me when it's ready. I'll come in and sign it.
Yeah, and
Because
once
you want it done this week.
Yeah, once Mike signs it, I'll send it I'll circulate it to the board so you can see what we ended up submitting.
Yeah, so they can see the after the fact, the damage. Yeah. But that's, yeah. Okay, so motion's been made to authorize the chair to sign the letter in support of the grant and to authorize me to sign it. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Wendy, thank you, Wendy.
She's awake.
She's back. The motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Malia. Thank you,
very
Ray.
much on behalf of the Parks and Rec, and also anybody listening, this is like the guinea pig to hopefully solve the long time question that's gonna be about a walking area. It might be the answer, don't know yet.
Thank you also, Anne Marie, for your help with this.
Here to there.
That's That's why I like that.
We're gonna build a sidewalk on 131 to connect.
There's been a long-
8 miles, 10
Long
miles.
discussion about connecting, like the school to the library or the, Thrasher Road trailer park area to the library, and this might be an answer to that. With granting.
Next item on the agenda is the social services appropriations. Do you want to do that before the budgets, or do you want to do that with the budgets?
What does this just mean, that we make a motion to approve these to go on the general fund?
Actually, no. We only make a motion to accept them all. The town manager will follow the policy. Anything that is $500 or less will automatically be entered on the appropriations line of the general fund. Anything over $500 will automatically generate a ballot article to be voted on by the people.
So do you need action on this?
Yes.
Okay,
We-
I'm making a motion that we approve the fiscal 2024-25 appropriations listed in our packet, to be included in the general fund.
Or if you're going to do that, or as Australian ballot as.
Well, but do these, are any of these on the list, Brandon? Do they have to go to special article? Or not?
Yes.
Yes.
$1,000.
So
Anything
Friends-
over 500.
Friends of the Meeting House, healthcare rehabilitation services.
Well, can we take, so if you go back down here on page 17, there's a list,
Thank you, Mule.
Finally, thank you.
there's a list, so.
Yes.
So, all of those that are over 500 have to go special articles?
500 and
Anything over $500 has to go on by a ballot,
yeah, 500.
our Australian ballot. So if we just approve the list, Brandon will create the articles as needed, and anything at $500 or less will automatically go on the appropriations line.
Gotcha.
I think it's $500 and over.
$500 and under is automatically
Oh,
on.
I think it's 499 because we had that last year with something else. It had to be 499.
Well, it's right here, and it does not say four. Well, I'll read the language to you, so that's maybe where it came
Is there
from.
anything at 500? I see
Yes.
one, Vermont Family
There's a
Network,
couple.
WISE.
Wise.
Approved funding request under $500 will be included, so under $500. So yes, $499.99 is automatically.
Didn't think I remembered, did you?
Well, I didn't. I'm not going to account for you.
So each one that is over 500 has to be a special article?
Yes,
Okay. Boy, that's a lot of ballot counting.
Yes, it is.
it is. I know.
So there's 1,
This only happens every couple years, though.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of them. It's gonna be 9 special articles.
Yep.
Wow.
Well, we had almost that many last time, didn't we? Pretty close to that.
No, I think we only had
Maybe
4 or 5 last year.
Motion to approve the list noted here for special article, either to the 9 that are gonna be on for special articles, and the others will be included in the general fund operating budget.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded to include the appropriate requests in the appropriate columns. Town manager will address that. Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the social services appropriations and their appropriate location in the budget or ballots, signify by saying aye.
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 I,
Okay, one more
Thanks.
thing.
Go ahead, Dave.
Can the office notify those 9 entities that if they so choose, that they need to attend the town meeting to explain their article?
Yes, they need to be,
So-
yes. They
And
need to
make
be
sure they
noticed.
know that the town meeting's on Saturday. I don't know what day it is, but, so that way, if there's any questions about what anybody wants, that they are not us. We can't, we're not gonna defend or object to whatever. They're their own
Correct,
organization.
correct. Thank you, Dave, for that. And that brings us to the general fund, highway fund, and solid waste budgets. We'll take these up individually. I'm not sure we have, but do we have any discussion on highway or solid waste tonight? Brandon?
Has anything changed?
Nothing's changed with, well, all 3 budgets have been revised.
And
But,
this,
Yes, you have the most up-to-date budgets.
With workers' comp and insurance.
Yeah,
The only
so
thing that's changed is workers' compensation and insurance.
yes, that's correct, in all budgets.
Correct.
And that was a decrease, correct?
There was a balance, but there was an
Okay.
overall decrease for the town.
Okay. This I can put away, I'm done with that for tonight. So I guess we'll start in the general fund, that's the first one on the list.
What page are you on?
I'm still on the agenda, so.
35.
35.
Yeah.
And then if you scroll, if we want to actually look at the budgets, which I'm sure that's where we're going, is that right, Mike? If you go to page 46, that's where you'll see the topside summary for the general fund, the highway fund, and the solid waste fund. And what the topside summary does is it breaks out each department, so you can see what their budget was for revenues last year and what it'll be this year, and the same for on the expense side.
Discussion. Anybody?
In the interest of time, do we have enough time to get through this?
Well, I don't know. What is the proposed fiscal tax rate proposed increase at this time?
1.8 cents.
What was it last year, 7?
I think it was,
It's more than that,
yeah, so it was.
because it went up, remember?
Yeah, I know.
It was 8 something, or not, 8 or 9 something, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was 8 cents last year.
Well, hold on, because you're assuming that the grand list isn't gonna change.
Correct.
Well, there are still other assumptions too. You still have other things that we don't get from the state until after March.
Yeah.
That we have no control over.
But on this, it's the same as last year, so we're going down the road of when he just answered the question, which is 1.8 cents. He's
Yes.
assuming that the grand list is the same, and the CLA is the same, and all of this.
I can't do anything otherwise because
I know, I get it.
But if we looked at that number at the same place last year, it was 6 something, wasn't it? Wasn't it like 6.7 or 6.8, and then we had that change, and it.
Yeah. So we're looking at a 2.5% increase if the grand list stays the same. Which when I first got here, Dave, and you were chair, I think we talked about an increase in $15,000 annually. I don't think that's the case today, but
Well, the grand list went up 22 to 23. It went up several million, like 4 million. It went up, but because of the CLA, we dropped 2 million off of our revenue.
that's what's affecting us is the CLA. So yes, overall 2.5%, which is an $18 increase on per $100,000 of municipal property value.
For August down there, I'm on page 47 of 96.
Okay.
You see the fiscal year 25 tax rate? Right in that top line,
Yep.
you see 33,172.88 in red.
Yes.
This is what tells, that's 1 penny on the tax rate.
Okay.
That's based on that.
1 penny is 33,172.
Yes.
Got it.
That's what that's for.
When we're going, tell me what page, Brandon, this is gonna be on. So, when you go down through administration,
Yep.
finance,
So go to page 52.
yes. So you're still, there's a significant change here.
Correct. That change was approved in executive session by the board.
Well, but we haven't approved the budget.
What page are you on?
True.
But a component of the budget was approved
52.
on the last meeting.
Hold on, there was no, I read the minutes, there was no action taken after executive session.
We told them we wanted to see what it looked like in the budget, though.
Yeah, I know that, but I'm just
Oh.
saying, I'm just,
Jeez.
well,
I thought it was fully approved in executive session.
well, nothing, no
But
action.
there was no
taken.
action, but
Well, then I missed that, so sorry.
It's okay.
So it was not the full board.
yeah.
You're significantly increasing the treasurer's budget.
Correct.
So you're still anticipating a full accountant?
I'm not sure what to anticipate at this time. It's been very tricky, and we're gonna continue to look for an accountant or other alternatives for finance. There was a lot that was discussed in executive session in relation to this, and since it's personnel, if we want to talk about it further, I think I'd request an additional executive session to kind of bring you up to speed with that.
Well, no, I don't want to go there, because my intent is clearly to talk about positioning, so that when somebody has something to do with finance, that they have a person that's their job here. And you've obviously earmarked $58,000 for that under line 117102 10.5. Does that include benefits?
So if you go to 117102 1410,
1410, okay, so you're saying a single person, so there's no family there, so that'd be a moving part.
it would be, yes.
I'm concerned about structure. The structure of the office, where people come and go, and they have through time. I've been here for every single town manager of Weathersfield. And it's important for boards, and I don't have to be here, or town managers to have certainty in finance, because money is everything. That, you know, the town office handles somewhere between $8 and $9 million worth of money, maybe a little bit more. So 58,000 or with benefits really is not a lot of money to be taking care of that kind of money. So that would be my concern. I like it when we had, and I don't believe this is nowhere near executive session stuff. I have been quite frank with you. I think that you, in your role here, I think you've defaulted to be too much into the finances as the manager, and I think it creates some unneeded pressure on you to do that. And I want to be able to develop a system that releases that pressure. I think it's too much on you to be the accountant and the manager. So
There's nothing I want more than an accountant.
So I'm just, but part of it has got to do with money.
Yes.
And if you're asking somebody to come in here for $58,000, then maybe that's not enough money. Because that's what I'm trying to get to.
I think that increasing the role of the treasurer lowers fiscal risk for the town and alleviates burden off of Brandon. It also serves as a safety check for whoever the accountant is as well. The treasurer is involved in those fiscal responsibilities. I think and I don't think this is executive session work either, but having stability in the accountant is money well spent. I completely agree with Dave.
Well, no,
As do I, and I know that when we look at these numbers, you combine these numbers over time. The town manager has a plan to make these numbers work for us. They may need to go up, but if they don't need to go up right now, if they did, he would tell us that right now.
That's where I was going. Is I'm comfortable with the projections.
That's we're on the same page, Dave.
well, we're lucky enough to have a treasurer that will accept that role. On the other hand, in Weathersfield's history, the treasurer has not had that significant of a role, so that they're kind of stepping on the person in finance. They act as a check only for the work that the finance does.
And the explanation for that does take us to executive session.
Well, can I describe a little bit more?
If
about the treasurer?
you're comfortable with it,
Okay.
sure.
So Steve Heyer has been the treasurer for a long time, and he really knows what he's doing. When I first came here as a town manager, we don't have a lot in writing. We don't have processes in writing. the treasurer right now is currently working, and will have more time to be able to work on the bank reconciliation process in writing, a process that can be given from accountant to accountant, so that when an accountant comes in, they know how to reconcile the books. There's a lot of work that goes into that. So the treasurer is working on these processes, and I think having those processes in writing is really important. I mean, we have cash receipts, we have accounts payable, we have payroll, we have the general ledger, we have taxes, we have water, we have a lot of moving parts in finance. So, but nothing's in writing, no processes are in writing. So it all kind of gets jumbled up. And I think with the treasurer increasing his role, he'll be able to start writing out all those processes over the next couple of years.
Well, and that's another point, because Steve has retired from being the finance person in Springfield School District. So I'm sure he probably wants to really retire. But this proposal doesn't take anything into consideration until July 1st of '24.
We've already increased them effective next Monday.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
Yep. He's moved, it's a transition, so he's going from 10 hours to 12 and a half hours. So he's increasing by 2.5 hours. But within those extra 10 hours a month, there's a lot of very efficient work that takes place with the treasurer.
And that's not proposed to be the long-term solution. It's to create what you just got done explaining, so that when we do hire an accountant,
Exactly.
then you have money, this money's already there, it's allocated and can move over. So your budget won't change, but then you have the money to pay for that long-term accountant to stay here, right, to make it worth it, correct?
And we're really carefully designing the accountant position, and also the processes to give to an accountant when they take the role on. So I think a lot of that went into this budget. And
Where will I find the, in the past couple of meetings, you've said that there's a significant year-end fund balance, and I'm just staying on the general fund.
Yeah.
From 6/30/23. What page am I going to find that on?
so you're going to find that on page 39.
And then you had some kind of an allocation.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, Dave, not 39. You're going to find that on page 36.
So then you had some kind of a plan there too, right? Where you thought, okay, good, of the uses of those, right?
Yeah.
I think we should, I don't know if we should act on anything tonight, but I think we should start thinking about making these decisions, because these have been floating around here for like 6 months. And those audited numbers are pretty firm, aren't they?
We're confident enough to allocate up to 100,000.
So I don't know what thought process that you want to start finishing up some budget stuff, or maybe we haven't talked about enough yet, but so some of this that you're talking about would also not have us go down the road of having a special article. So if you're asking for either police reserve or fire department reserves, you've got 60,000, right, to be set aside.
Yeah.
If you just stay in the general fund.
The total, it's $100,000, and we can look at it all as tax reduction. We don't have to look for, a reserve request for a police cruiser, nor do we have to look for a reserve request for fire apparatus. So
those would have to be taken up with separate motions by us, right? So you're advocating for to keep $60,000 in the general fund from 2023's balance?
Well, not really, because some of that is already assigned. Or you've got an unassigned balance, but some of that is restricted in our current budget. We used it last year.
So we do have some.
Out of the 162, Dave, some of that is already spoken for.
Well, we have some that's restricted, and then we also have, these aren't completely confirmed numbers, but then we also had to factor in an amount of money for benefits between January 2025 to June 30th.
In the general fund?
In the general fund. So we are proposing to keep $62,000, and we also have prepaid expenses and so forth.
Yeah, but that's from a number from prior, Mike, so
Yeah,
it wouldn't
yeah,
be, it
yeah,
wouldn't be,
you're
from-
right.
if you just do the add here, from what
Yep.
he's described it.
Yep.
So you are keeping that money, you know,
Yes.
from prior.
Yes. We're in a really good place right now with our budgets, I think, as far as the process goes. I don't think we need to rush into a decision on these tonight, though, although I do agree, we definitely need to have our eye on these things. But there may be some things changing
Is
before we make these decisions, so.
significant?
Yeah, go ahead.
No, significant change?
No,
Possible.
I wouldn't say significant based on the bottom line. I mean, I think there could be some fluctuation, 15 to 20,000 maybe, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
Unless the board's thinking something else, but,
So let me ask another question. So when you come down to, some things have been, I can't remember where the itemized, where I saw it before, what page it would be on the different departments. When you see, you had a significant reduction in the listers, right?
it's
Yeah.
not really a reduction, it's bridging, so the assessors will start their role, in 2025, so there'll be a period of time that we don't have to pay for assessing services. And then in addition to that, we haven't been spending that full 24,000 annually, so an adjustment needed to take place on that this year anyway. So with that, and then also factoring into the savings, considering the assessor will be, with the reappraisal contract, we no longer have to pay for assessing services for those 2 years. That's a discussion we need to have about what we want to do with that money. I didn't fully take it out, but I did reduce it a little bit.
Well, I am serious about having one or two more persons in there. First of all, the voters would have to, which I don't advocate for, the voters would have to vote on taking away the lister component of our town, and I don't want that to happen because has historically been people that come in and take up a lot of information from landowners about their properties. It's the face of the town dealing with their properties, so.
I was gonna ask, earlier, I think you and I both, when Barb was talking, we talked about, having people in that office. And that means paying them. If they get
Yes.
elected or appointed, doesn't matter, they still get paid.
Yes.
So if other people, if there was one or two more people working in the lister's office, is there money there?
Yes,
Let's
that's,
say people turn their names in,
Yeah.
and we end up with two more people in there. Do we have the money in the budget to do that?
So what we did is we projected out the next time we'll need a reappraisal, right? So the next time we need a reappraisal is when 2034 after this one, if it falls in line with the 7-year requirement or the 7-year recommendation to have a reappraisal. So what that does is you can see how much money will still be in the reserve account if you can kind of predict what a reappraisal will cost at that time. So there is an amount of money that we could use from reserves through the reappraisal reserve to hire listers to work on the reappraisal.
And then recapture it the following year or something if necessary?
You
Or?
recapture it at around $16,000 a year through the states. The state gives us so much money per parcel.
Okay.
where do I find so I'm scrolling through here to go to page 51, and we're going down through the whole, I get all the way up to, I think it was 62, where I should find, but maybe you've got it in a different spot, a total of the entire general fund.
Okay, scroll back up to page, I put it on the top side this year.
Okay.
It's on page 46.
Okay.
And that's where that's a snapshot of the Weathersfield General Fund, Highway Fund, and Solid Waste Fund budgets broken out per fund.
So the general fund would be $1,810,000 for proposed, am I reading it correct?
Yep, 1,810,000. It was
Okay,
1
so
million.
where would the line be when it says of which a certain amount comes from taxes, from property taxes?
That would be at the top. General fund tax revenue, 1,368,000.
I'm making a motion, we approve of operating the fiscal year 24-25 budget of general fund, $1,810,161, of which $1,368,442 to be raised by taxes.
Do I hear, motion's been made, do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
We are in discussion. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the budget. I did have a concern in this budget, and it is a Scotney Fire Department increase. I think it's proposed in this budget at 19%. $17,000, I believe.
What page is that on? Can you help us?
That's same page you were just on, Dave.
60,
Or has all the-
60 something, is it not?
Yeah, it's in the
46.
middle.
46, okay.
Or you can go back to 39.
Does that give the details?
That's where the written details are.
Okay.
39?
Yeah.
Darren's here, maybe he,
Darren Colby's here too.
yeah.
Yeah, so we came to you guys last couple of years, said we needed you guys took over, paid the bills. We had 2 thermal engine cameras. We had a thermal engine camera died, it was 15, 18 years old, they don't make parts for it. So we had 1 truck with a thermal engine camera. That got taken out the last couple of years. So they come down in price. I put in for 2 this year, $9,400. 1 to put on the tanker and 1 to put on the ladder. So if we have 1 truck out of town, we still have a thermal engine camera in town. I'm willing to take 1 away, a thermal engine, to lower ours a little bit. We also, we had 3 AEDs. We had 1 working, 1 on the truck. I went over to Golden Cross and borrowed 1, and that battery is less than half. And they don't make batteries for that. It's less than $1,200 increase in it. And for the last 2 years, maybe 3, we've had a portable skid tank for our forestry truck. The one that we have is 25 years old. We can't get parts for it. When we first brought this up, it was $9,000. The quote I got now is 13 and change, 13,000. It has a 250-gallon tank on it, plus a 30-gallon foam tank with a real fire pump on it. So not only will it work for the forestry end of it, but it will also work for the firefighters that don't feel comfortable enough to bring the bigger trucks to a car accident, where they can put the car fire out, or a smaller brush fire, or whatever, that they're comfortable driving.
So, Darren, real quick, the budget that's enclosed within the general fund budget, it excludes those additional requests that we were talking about. So the thermal imaging cameras for 9,500, that's to be discussed separately. So I just want to clarify that for everyone.
That paragraph's not in the budget.
Yep, that's not in the budget. Now there is the 10,000 for body work, 13,000 for the skid tank, or 15,000 for the heating system. What's in the budget is that first paragraph on page 39.
I see 39.
Scotney Fire Department is proposing a $17,554 increase in their budget, or 19% overall. I believe with the, what was the decrease, the workman's comp or something? Whatever that is?
There was a decrease in, just with workers' comp and insurance. But Darren, that's what we had discussed when we met.
Right.
We were separating these would be additional expenses, because the board requested information on on fire department ARPA requests.
Yeah, and you just went over that stuff.
So that's
Separate.
This is budget.
That's separate, and I just want to make sure that everybody
Well, make
understands
sure we're on
that.
the same page over here.
Yes.
Yep, that's what we're trying to do.
That's 11.8, that's what you said.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, so this is the increase here, where we need,
It's for supplies. Budget include 400 for batteries,
Yes, that's right.
1,300 for AED, 450 for traffic wands,
yep,
640 for battery lights, 850 for repeater batteries.
yep,
PPE increased 66%, includes 3 helmets, 3 pairs of boots, 3 sets of bunker gear,
yep.
8 traffic vests, 6 pairs of gloves, $720, 6 hoods, for a grand total of $15,000, $700, $16,000.
When Darren and I reviewed this budget,
What's the
we
2,000?
broke out a 20-year, I think it was a 20-year capital
Yeah.
plan.
Yep.
And
In our inventory list, and it worked out,
that's the way that it worked out.
because we've got some helmets that are due to be replaced. We've got some hoods. Actually, the inventory list is right there, Brad, in the 3-ring binder. Yeah, right there. The traffic vests and stuff, I mean, I'm trying something different for safety. They're making some now that actually have LED lights in them. They're $80 a pop. I'm trying to, I gotta think outside the box for safety for our guys. The batteries for the repeater, they're good for 5 years. We've had the repeater 7 years. That's our backup fire ground that's the antenna's at my house, and the batteries. The pagers, we try to replace them every 5 years. We try to replace 6 a year. Did you say the repair of the fire truck's on here too?
No, the repair of the body work is in the ARPA request.
Okay.
On the helmets, Darren, those are $500 a piece, is
Yes,
that
that's
right?
the quote we got, was $500 a piece,
And then how often do those need to be replaced?
every 10 years.
Okay. And then how many people do you have that need helmets?
What's that, what's right there?
9.
We need 9 to be replaced.
9 replaced on an annual basis?
9, no,
9
not,
helmets expire this year,
So we have 9 that are expiring this year.
correct?
How many people need helmets?
9,
Okay.
yes.
So you only have 9 people at the fire department that wear helmets?
No.
No, we have 9 of them that expire in 2023. We have 6 of them that expire in 26. We have 5 that expire in 29. 6 that expire in 2030. 1 expires in 2031 and 1 expires in 2032.
So my question, I didn't know that before. So why is the request only for 3 if you have 9 that are expiring?
Because we as a membership, we needed the helmets. We just ordered 9
I see.
because it wasn't in our budget. Because we had to level fund last year. We were trying to move some different pieces around. So we took, out of our fundraising, we took 9 helmets out of our savings account, which also included, you buy 9 helmets, you get a $100 or $110 Nomex hood with it. So they're throwing that in.
And then next year you said you need 6?
6.
In 2026, we need 6.
Okay, I see. So that would be 3 this year, 3 the following year.
We can break it down now.
who's first?
So who wanted to be?
Ray.
I got a real quick one, Darren, just so you know, that absence prayer we do every year, they'll cover traffic vests and cones and wands and everything.
We tried that, they didn't do it this year. That's why we had to get the camera system.
I didn't think
Yeah, was
tra-
not
I
in
didn't think
that.
traffic vests were on there.
No, not the lighted ones. We got the lighted ones that run up on the interstate a lot and the rechargeable ones. But that was not on there this year, we had to go with the cameras.
Anyway,
Dave.
I just-
is it fair to say, you know, you had the question to begin with about the spending, is it fair to say, and the answer is yes, the request in the budget is going to decrease the need to use reserves, which we do from time to time during the year, from this request? Because if you think about it, if you add up, I don't know what it's gonna add up to be, like $10,000 now, that a Scottney would not be requesting during the year out of the non-wheel fund.
And that's exactly where my mind went. I saw that as an easy target for a reserve request, but that reserve is depleting, and it would take money
Well,
out of that
but you
reserve.
addressed that so that was my next point. You addressed that on page 36 or whatever it was, by saying that you were transferring, you're asking us to transfer $40,000 to fire department reserves. So you're trying to take care of that as well. It doesn't say motorized, but I'm assuming that we could make a split here, of what that would be. So
There's
I
no
don't know.
doubt that we need a long-term capital plan for the town, so that we can explain, which we've been working on.
I've been working on for a
Um,
couple, 3 years.
Now, the treasurer with his increased role will be finalizing that fire department capital plan.
I was just trying to get my arms around for this particular budget year. I really think that we need to start closing down here because you're going on vacation, and the numbers that you've presented us overall is not terrible yet.
Thank you.
That's why I made the motion to approve the budget. So, for this one, otherwise, the option is we do have, which I haven't said yet, but we do have the Board of Civil Authority meeting on the 13th. We could have an additional budget meeting here because we're all gonna be here for that. If, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So, we like to combine meetings. I don't know whether everybody's thinking about that, but if we're here, otherwise, we need to start putting finality on this because I don't see the numbers changing a lot. I'm okay that my chief concern is finance, and if you think that you've worked out a plan, that's okay, providing our treasurer is able to navigate his way through. I mean, we're all getting older, including me.
Yep.
You are?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I'm looking at this helmet thing, and I don't know beans.
Right.
Okay, let me be clear about that. So I have to ask questions, so I'll know beans.
Right.
You have 9 helmets expiring this year,
Correct.
6 next year. That's
No, the year after.
26. I'm sorry, 26. 6 and 26.
Correct.
Okay, so that means right now that's 15 helmets that you have on hand right now that have an expiration date. Then you have 5 and 29. That's 20 helmets on hand. 6 and 30. That's 26 on hand.
Is that,
If you
is that, I think your count's not taking the bad ones out of the
You're gonna take the
circulation.
bad ones out of service.
as you move forward.
Plus, I need a few.
Well, we're in 20. We're in 23 right now. So you've got 9 that are expiring this year.
Correct.
Okay, so I get to count those right now. You have
But we
that.
took 9 out.
Okay, you took 9 out. All right.
There's 9. He's trying to get a total count of how many helmets.
Yes. I'm trying to get a total count of how many helmets you have.
What do you have right now?
And what, if you've got 9 going out in 23, they count. 6 and 26, 5 and 29, 6 and 30, 1 and 31, and 1 and 32 is a total of 28 helmets.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you want to take 9 out, you still have 18 helmets. You have 18 people responding to calls?
Not every day, no.
Okay, you have 9 people responding to calls.
You have anywhere from 2 to 6, sometimes, you do have 18 people.
I see where you're going with this. So when a member comes in, right, they get their own set of
Their own
gear.
set of gear.
So we don't say, Aaron shows up, he gets his helmet, but if he's not there and I show up, I get his helmet. His gear is his gear.
Yes.
They don't want
I
the
get
So
that.
if we have 20 people that are signed up, we have to have 20 helmets. You also need to have stuff on hand, so if something gets blood on it, is damaged, or a new member joins, then we actually have something to outfit them with, rather than coming back and saying, hey guys, we need a full set of gear, boots, helmet.
and I'm glad you pointed it that way, because when a new person comes on, if they're not firefighter one, they're not going in a building anyway, right?
So, it's no different than going, correct.
Right.
So they need to have certain certifications as well as the chief's and officer's approval to do that. So we know that they're safe.
But you can't give them an expired helmet because some.
No, you can't give them an expired one, but you don't have to give them a new one.
No, that's why, as I said earlier, we have some spares. We rotate them out.
Okay, that's,
So the members that are gonna be getting, the people that have the expiring helmets are gonna get the new ones,
yep,
right? Those are typically the people that go to most of the calls, right? So usually the newer stuff goes to the people that are requiring the gear to go into the buildings, to do the MVAs and stuff like that. And then the older gear is what gets put back into storage, so they can go, okay, we got a new member, or, you know, your helmet got contaminated or broken, it needs to be serviced, you get the older one until that comes back. It's kind of a cycle. The newer gear goes to the members, A, or EMP, the people that are active.
Our goal has been for 2 or 3 years, or since the municipal department kind of waned, was to relieve the departments, both of them, of fundraising, but to listen to and to give them the equipment that's needed.
yes.
So I'm listening to just helmets, but the gear is a long way from just helmets.
Yes, yes, I agree.
So
And they're in the equal dispersion.
And if
for
I'm
lack of a
listening
better word.
to, I don't know whether it's 9 or 6 or 3, I think we're getting too far into small things. The bigger conversation would be, are both departments, because we contract with Golden Cross to provide the ambulance service, are both departments satisfied with the gear that they have? Not the trucks, I'm talking about physical gear. And has that worked over the last 2 or 3 years, where we've tried to provide them through the appropriations that we keep allowing? Has it worked? Where they do less fundraising and the town recognizes that they need to provide the gear for the people that are served on both departments. That's the question. Is it good enough? Is it working?
So, within the next 6 to 12 months, I'd say, we're going to be coming forward to present the long-term capital plan for the town. And that's going to really demonstrate what the departments need and then how much it's going to cost us annually.
Well, then, but I'm just talking about, we seem to be we're chewing up into an awful lot of weeds here, so about gear. So I think the town should plan on, both departments, either through the budget process, of buying 3 or 4 sets of full gear every year. Because if it becomes contaminated, or whatever reason, somebody ripped theirs, I don't care what, then there's a dollar amount that's in their budgets. I don't know what's in Josh's, I see him online. Does he have enough in this?
He's got 2
Okay.
in this one. Josh, is that enough?
I don't know if he's listening or not.
Yes, that's, we have, our roster is 21 people. There is, I do personally think there is a limit of how many people we have on these departments because of the cost affiliated with them. There is a point where buying new gear for multiple members when they're only showing up for a couple times a year, I personally don't think that it's well spent money for the town. So we are anticipating on the replacement roughly of 2 sets a year.
So you're good with yours? Darren, you're good with yours?
Yeah.
You got 3 last year too, right? I think.
And that's not to say that we don't, because we have taken it up in the mid-year of any time that the request is made. And that's why we have that reserve account for non-wheel, non-motorized fire equipment. But as you pointed out earlier, if which is, I'm okay with it. If they're requesting some of that money in the budget process, that means that there'd be less of a need for us to go down that road in the middle of a budget year.
Can I make a comment, just to go back on something that Josh said is, you know, I understand not maybe having new gear, for people that only go to a couple of calls a year or whatever, but they have to still have gear that's within date. Because it's only gonna take that person that one time that they show up to be doing traffic control and get hit, and the state's gonna go, is their helmet in date? Did they have gloves on? Did they have their boots on? Did they have their bunker pants? Because I can remember back in the day, and Greg, you should remember this too, I think, is when Charlie Frank died. And he was doing traffic control. And the paperwork that had to be done, and the list of what he had on and what date it was on his gear, and if it was in date, is horrendous.
Yeah, I first of all would advocate for anybody wearing gear that's out of date. And any other comment related to what gear they would use would be micromanagement, and I'm not gonna do that either. So, for me, I'm, you know.
I think it's good to ask a lot of questions about any budget, and I'm hoping that the capital plan is going to really resolve a lot of questions people have, because it is detailed, and we're looking forward to presenting it.
Okay, is there any further discussion on the motion? We do have a motion on the floor to approve this budget. Is there any further discussion on the motion? We're not changing it.
Okay, I don't know what it is.
Well, ask your chief, he submitted it.
No,
She's
my
talking.
lister's budget.
Oh, your budget. You mean the other one? Because you wear two hats. You're the treasurer of the fire department. Well, that's
I hate to break the news to you, yours went down.
Brendan, you want to explain that to her?
Well, he did before.
He did.
He did a great job setting the fire department budget, not
Thank
so
you.
much on this.
He wasn't gonna pay number.
Yeah, so the budget went down by $6,500 for contracted assessor services, and that's because Nate's time is included in the reappraisal. So we will not be paying contracted service for Nate
Thank you, guys.
in 2025.
Stay safe.
Yes.
And then Lister's got a 3.2% increase, just like everybody else. So that's all that really needed to go into your budget.
Had you worried, didn't I?
Well, no, it just would have been.
Yes, I'm aware.
On that note.
So I don't think there's any changes to you, though. Even though there's changes in the money, I don't think it's anything to do with you, right?
Well, that I don't know. I mean, it would have been nice to have some input on the budget of, you know, but
What, do you need more money? Now's the time.
I do need money. I mean, I'm doing the work of 3 people. I do, not only do I do transfers, I do 911 addresses. I take, and I also I go out and do building permits, the easy ones. You know, I mean, I'm the only one in that office. And I just feel that, you know, I deserve more than what I get. You know, when property goes up for tax sale or whatever, and then I gotta do all of that. You You know, they put out for a grant to do certain things, and then I have to do all of that. Plus, it's a lot of work in there for one person. And sometimes it gets overwhelming.
And I think the conversation earlier is, let's get some more people in there.
So we're talking about from July 1st, 24 through June 30th, 25. But you were also saying that the dollar amount, so while it looks different here on the paper of the town budget, the dollar amount is going to be about the same because you've incorporated some of that money through the bid that was awarded, right?
Yes, correct. Yeah, the
So
budget's
it
been,
looks like it's lower here, but it's not.
Not really, no.
it's not a lower
It's
budget.
just in a different place.
Yeah, the 6,500 for contracted assessing. So we've been coming in around 2021, and then I factored in those 3 or 4 months, and I came up with a $6,500 number to reduce it. I don't think we'll exceed that.
There's also, and I'll throw this out there, but it's up to the administration. So there's also a fund surplus that was generated at 6/30/2023.
Yes.
So 6 months ago. So if you have a concern about you need a few more hours or whatever else, then I would suggest that you put that in written form and pass it on to Brandon to be considered now. Because we are operating with a surplus over all the departments. And it's been generated, from what I say, from collection of taxes, from outstanding taxes. That's what I think. To be used. So that's where I would take that up. I mean, I just listened to you say that you're really busy with, and I don't doubt it, where you've got to do that, or Nemrick has to do it, and it would be the same as anybody else who's got more of a workload on, that you got to go to who's in charge and then ask.
I think what we should do is review, so you're approved right now up to 10 hours a week. And then how many hours have you been working over the past, 4 weeks?
I don't put in the 10 hours, no, because I was told I can't stay late, and I'm not gonna be ridiculed here in this manner, because I was told that I could not stay after hours, and I couldn't come in before my hours. So
And that was told to you from who?
we'll discuss that later.
Okay.
I think, Barb, here's a piece of advice I'd give you. You're an appointed person by us as an elected official, okay? The listers are elected.
Correct.
No different than the treasurer who's elected or the town clerk who's elected. So I might sharpen my elbows a little. I'm just giving you a piece of advice, because I just would say, I was appointed to serve out an elected term. I'm gonna try to do my job.
You're elected now.
I'm elected now, yeah.
Right.
So I was.
Well, she was appointed to fill the unexpired term.
I was appointed until the election, and then the
She got
election was
elected.
to work out the
Oh,
last.
okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. So you're, yep.
No, so she's elected to do it. And if I remember right, with our budget, whatever, I don't know, whatever number she was, we had X amount of dollars for
Yes.
Lister 1, Lister 2, and Lister
Yes.
3. She must be Lister 1 by now.
I don't know, but I'm just, but I suspect that it's probably true where if 2 and 3 are not here, that they did some work, whatever the work was, so that she could probably fill a gap, and then just let the chips fall where they may, for you put in your hours
I
on the
don't
time
think
card.
she's looking for more time. I think she's looking for more money.
Well, time is money.
Well, it's like, school is my priority, okay? That's my job, okay? So I come in here, but when I am on school vacations or whatever, I could put my 10 hours in 2 days.
Excuse me.
But then I get told that can't do that. So,
I would think the workload would come and go, right? Similar to land use or something, where you have, all of a sudden you get swamped with permits or something, and then
I
not.
have a whole file full
Yeah.
that need to be done.
I think we need to move on.
I do too. Are you okay? You know what you're gonna do?
Yeah, I'm going home.
No, I mean to deal with this. You're gonna go talk to the town manager, right?
Did we vote?
Sure. No, we have not yet. So there is a motion on the floor to approve, because the lister had requested discussion on her portion. So there is a motion on the floor. Any further discussion on the general fund budget?
I do have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
I started some discussion with Brandon. I do need to just make sure, Brandon, was what we talked about earlier, does that with the software program, is that in this budget at all?
So no, it's not in this budget, Josh, and we can discuss that further, but it's not gonna be a problem either.
Okay,
So.
I just want to make sure that we weren't going to be short with that, so.
Yeah, we don't have a problem there.
Okay,
Okay,
we're in the dark, but that's okay. You guys deal with it.
It's just emergency reporting is changing to a different software company, and we're discussing alternatives. And
Okay.
there could be a potential increase there, but it's not big enough to be concerned about.
Did we also talk about both departments using the same software? Is this the one we're talking about?
That's why it's a bigger conversation.
Okay, very good. So, any further discussion on the general fund budget? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. The general fund budget is approved.
Wendy.
Thank you, Wendy. I heard you. Highway fund. Didn't we already do that?
The highway fund has been presented, but we needed to update workers' compensation and insurance within the budget, and that's the only thing that's changed.
And again, that was down?
That was a significant decrease for the highway department.
Okay.
I think it was a $10,000 increase overall for that department.
Increase or decrease?
Decrease, I'm sorry.
Motion to approve the FY 24-25 highway budget, $1,188,569, of which $987,690 to be raised by taxes.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Nobody? Anybody? Okey dokey. Hearing none. All in favor of the motion to approve the highway budget fiscal year 2025, signify by saying aye. Aye.
aye.
Thank you, Wendy. Solid waste budget. Where are we at there, Brendan? No
We're as close as we're gonna get right now. In my opinion.
And I think this proposal suggests that we are going to be moving towards another 25-cent increase in the punch ticket at this time, right? Right now, or we're
Yes.
going to have to come up with some other way.
Is that worked in the budget, the increase?
It is worked in the
Okay.
budget, the 25 cents.
No.
And, we're going out to bid, and we'll get bids back, and then we'll have to reevaluate. But based on what we know right now, this does reflect potential increases through the bid process.
And there's no way we can get rid of any of our debt. How do we get rid of some of that?
We need to address the cumulative fund deficit, which is currently $59,000. That's another conversation that I think we should take time discussing to determine what to do with that.
Outside of approving the budget?
Yes.
Yeah, this year, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there's some options, and having had a meeting with Brandon on this and having discussed at the select board, I think it's gonna take some presenting courses of action for the select board on how the transfer station operates and input from the public.
Okay.
And then that will give you an opportunity to reduce variable costs.
We should probably get together on that and prepare an exit strategy then for the polls, for people that could answer.
It's an awesome idea.
We do get answers there,
It
don't we,
would be
Dave?
awesome to have like a small survey or give an opportunity.
Well, the biggest one that we ever got was that they really want a place to collect, to get rid of their trash and to recycle. So the facility is of great importance. So. Motion to approve the solid waste proposed 2025 budget at $378,314.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the fiscal year 2025 solid waste budget. Any discussion on the budget? Kinda already did. Hearing none, all in favor of the fiscal year 2025 solid waste budget, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Ladies and gentlemen, it is the first meeting in December. It's like December 2nd, and we're done with the three main budgets. They're done.
Nice work, Brandon.
Yes.
9:17, can we be quick, can we be quick on the rest of it?
Yeah, town manager update. You got 2 minutes.
Just a couple of things. We have the invitation for bids out there for the police cruiser. I think we're gonna have to discuss that further. And we have a couple other things to discuss, as far as the police department goes.
That starts with an
Staffing
executive
and
session.
so forth. And that's really all I have tonight, other than we're gonna be moving forward on this bridge and the easements and so forth. We have a couple of holidays coming up, Christmas and New Year's, but I'll remind everyone again at the next meeting.
Did you schedule a party for us?
We do have a Christmas party coming up.
For us?
You guys are welcome to come.
Are you sure?
Never get invited.
We're never
It
invited.
was like by default there. The look on his face
you
was
see
like.
that?
We're not on the budget, Dave.
Did he tell anybody here that there's a party?
No, and the only reason why you said something is because Dave cornered
This
it.
is gonna surprise you.
I just
Dave
said-
Rose-
Yeah, right,
So we are,
surprise us.
I forgot all about the Christmas party, to be honest with you, until you brought it up. But we are doing it at the lodge in West Windsor this year.
Who's the band?
We don't have a band, unfortunately.
He might volunteer.
Is it unlimited food for the select board?
Volunteer for $600.
So nothing, huh? We get a nothing burger. After we just. I'm
Seriously?
taking back those motions. Go.
All right, and so you're all set, Brandon, with that?
Yeah, we're all set.
Appointments, I believe that we only have the one appointment tonight, as we have tabled the Village Wastewater Committee until January, I believe, 16th. So tonight we have Zoning Board of Adjustment, Andrea Murray. Do I hear a motion to appoint Andrea Murray to the Zoning Board of Adjustment?
So moved.
Do I hear a
I'll
second?
second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion?
I'm going to have to abstain because although she's charming, beautiful, and intelligent, she is my wife. She is a Murray, so.
He's only saying that because he's on TV.
Yes, exactly.
I have first-hand knowledge of this candidate, as exceptional qualities.
And she paid him money to say that.
First of all, do you have a zoning application in the works? Do you have a zoning application in process?
No.
Do you stand to make any money?
Oh,
Decision
no.
that your wife makes?
Thousands.
No, I probably will get more chores around the farm.
This is like, this is like asking somebody to get, this is like a penalty.
Have you ever said bad things about zoning
Oh, gosh.
on social media?
My
She
point
will
is-
after she gets on the committee.
My point is that technically you do not have to abstain from this decision,
Okay.
but I leave that up to you. There is a motion and a second to appoint Andrea Murray to the Zoning Board of Adjustment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
And any nays? Boy, you spared yourself that one, didn't you, August?
I did.
Any abstentions?
Myself.
We have, so it is 4-0 and 1. The motion carries. Andrea Murray is appointed to the Zoning Board of Adjustment. Motion to approve the warrants, please.
Motion to approve the warrants dated December 4th, 2023. General fund payroll, $17,484.96. General fund operating expenses, $44,855.50. Highway fund payroll, $8,696.91. Highway fund operating expense, $45,066.88. Solid waste payroll, $1,991.81. Solid waste operating expense, $212.89. Library payroll, $2,361.42. Library operating expense, $28.50. Veterans Memorial operating expense, $43.94. ARPA, must be the west side.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the additional.
This is the additional one we voted on.
West Weathersfield additional work, $7,786.89. Grand totals, payroll, $30,535.10. Grand total operating expense, $97,994.60.
Motion's been made. Do I hear a second?
A second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion on the warrants?
I just got a question,
No.
please. A quick one. Why
I'm
is the
just kidding.
operating expenses for the waste management only $212? We didn't have any tippages or anything?
Not in this warrant. So tippage is a monthly cost. So in this warrant,
Oh, okay.
yeah. So
It will be.
yeah, you'll see it at the next warrant.
That was the only question I had on the whole thing.
Yeah.
Okay, any other discussion on the warrants? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Wendy. Thank you, everybody. That's just my way of acknowledging that I heard her. Any other business that can be conducted while illegally assembled?
Yeah, can I ask a quick question? I should have asked last time, but I didn't. When we paid Ray and Suzanne for their extra vacation time,
Yep.
is that in the budget? That's extra money. That's not like they took the time off, but they worked and they got paid vacation.
Yeah, so the way that it works is the personnel policy authorizes the town manager.
I know, that's why I read it.
Yep. To pay out up to 80 hours annually of vacation for employees that took at least 40 hours of vacation, and then either had a hardship or is requesting the vacation, and the town manager can determine that the budget can handle it. So I reviewed both the general fund budget and the highway fund budget and determined that we can't pay out 80 hours, but we can pay out 40.
That's all I wanted to know. I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't
He had these
tightening the
conversations.
string somewhere else, so.
He had these conversations with me as well and explained exactly what was going on and the reason that he couldn't say, look, guys, you need to take this time.
Yeah.
He needs his people right now because of where things are. So we went through all that stuff, just so you know.
And see, the way that I worked this is, there's a position right now that isn't that is vacant in the general fund, and that work still needs to be done.
Oh, I understood why you did it. I just wanted to make sure you weren't making things tight for us, that's all.
Yeah, I think
money-wise, I don't.
unless something happens, I'm always not predicting.
I should have asked, I didn't catch it quick enough.
No worries.
Okay, future agenda items. You're all set with, we knocked a few off of here tonight.
Yeah.
So we're in good shape right now, I think.
That's great. So the next meeting,
Eight items maybe on the next meeting?
on the next meeting, we'll have the town meeting articles. 0.
Just say all the articles are on one agenda item, I think it'd be better.
Yeah.
Do you have,
4 sounds
we
good.
haven't got any, didn't you say that you were gonna be looking to buy a backhoe? Is that gonna be on a reserve?
Yeah, so the backhoe will be on the next meeting.
But we haven't seen anything.
No.
Not yet.
We want to get the budgets.
And I wanted to avoid the ARPA discussions as well. I wanted to focus on the budgets,
Yeah.
get through those, get it done. So, and we did that. Thank you all very much for that, Brandon. Great job. We have an executive session. Do I hear a motion to go into executive session?
I motion to enter executive session.
What's that?
I motion that we go into executive session.
Do I hear a second?
Yes.
Motion's been made and seconded. I declare the board in executive session. This is just the board
It is
tonight.
9:26.
9:26.